Chapter 585. Anson and the other three recognized it at a glance. The biggest gem belonged to the second leader, Cook. Coupled with the broken gems on the ground, they instantly thought of one thing, and that was that something had happened to the caravan led by Cook. Not only had something happened, but judging from the current situation, they had probably been completely annihilated. The third leader, who had the most explosive temper, shouted, "Impossible." Second brother's caravan was moving in secret, outsiders did not know about it at all. Besides, with second brother's strength and so many experts, how could they be completely annihilated? I don't believe it. The third leader instantly grabbed the middle-aged man's neck, and a vicious aura rose from his body. However, the man's face was still blank, without the slightest bit of fear. Seeing this, the third leader was even more furious. Just as he was about to pinch the man to death, Anson stopped him. "Third brother, don't be rash. Let's ask clearly first. This brother, can you describe the scene you saw?" The middle-aged man briefly described the scene of Cook's group dying miserably. Anson's face was also as gloomy as water. He gritted his teeth and said, "Who did it? Who else could it be? It must be Hope without a doubt." The third leader said angrily, "Otherwise, who would have the ability to kill second brother? But other than the few of us, no one else knows about second brother's whereabouts." "How did Hope intercept second brother?" Anson asked doubtfully. The third leader looked at the fourth leader suspiciously. The fourth leader's heart trembled. "What, third brother, are you suspecting me?" "Humph, I didn't say that. Why are you in such a hurry to take a seat? Do you have a guilty conscience?" The third leader said sarcastically. "Bullshit. You." Just as the fourth leader was about to refute, Anson shouted, "Enough." Anson instructed, "Men, take care of this person first. Third brother, take some people to Mount Sanning to take a look at the situation. Fifth brother, contact the spirit cultivator sects that are on good terms with us. As for fourth brother, you can go back first." Then, two people walked in and took the middle-aged man away. The third leader glared at the fourth leader fiercely and walked out quickly. The fourth leader secretly gritted his teeth and took a deep look at Senator. However, he didn't say anything and finally went back obediently. The fifth leader said uneasily, "Big brother, will it be dangerous for third brother to go out? I think it's better if we don't split up. Maybe Hopper is lying in ambush around us." Anson thought for a moment and said, "Don't worry. I've also planted spies in the Huangchuan tribe. They haven't done anything yet." The fifth chieftain nodded and left. 30 miles away from the wilderness tribe, Ling Shiqi saw the two masters of Gang's spirit realm leaving the wilderness tribe in different directions. He smiled. At present, all the reactions and actions of the Wasteland tribe were within his expectations. The middle-aged man with the broken gem just now was actually a casual practitioner caught by Ling Shiqi. He controlled the man's mind with flowing light illusion, so in fact, the man had become Ling Shiqi's puppet. Ling Shiqi couldn't help but sigh at the horror of flowing light illusion. However, this technique also had a certain flaw, which was that the person being controlled would be sluggish. If it weren't for the shocking news that Kuk and the others were all killed, Anson and the others might have noticed the man's abnormality. But fortunately, they weren't careful enough. Now, the third leader of the wilderness tribe had gone to Mount Sanning with the spirit tablet of spiritual aperture realm. If Ling Shiqi was right, Hopper must have arranged masters to ambush there. The third leader probably couldn't come back. As for the fifth chieftain, a killing intent flashed in Ling Shiqi's eyes, and he left as light as the wind and as fast as lightning. The Wasteland tribe's fifth chieftain was called Xing. He had the lowest cultivation, the lowest status, and the lowest authority among the 5 chieftains. Perhaps it was because of this that he saw things more clearly than the other chieftains who were blinded by power. For example, when Anson asked him to contact the spirit cultivator sects, he could say that 90% of the spirit cultivator sects would not agree to help. Moreover, he always felt that the attack on Kuk's caravan was a bit strange. But he didn't have much authority in front of the other chieftains. Even if he brought it up, it would be ignored, so he could only do as he was told. At this time, he was rushing through a small path to the nearest spirit cultivator sect. Suddenly, a cold wind blew around him, and ghostly shadows howled. White bone claw shadows fell from the sky, and the sharp sound of the air being torn apart made people feel as if their eardrums were about to burst. Someone's ambushing us. Ensign couldn't help but be shocked. His reaction wasn't slow, and a pair of rings appeared in his hands. The ring split into two and flew out of his hand, turning into two giant pythons that intertwined and rushed into the claw shadows. However, at this moment, a terrifying baleful aura filled the world, as if a demon had descended. The terrifying baleful aura almost isolated the surrounding spiritual energy, and the two giant pythons immediately showed signs of distorting and collapsing. What a terrifying baleful aura! How many people has this person killed? And Xing's heart was filled with shock. He simply couldn't understand who had targeted him and ambushed him here. What he was even more puzzled about was that only the three chieftains knew that he had come out, and that he had taken a small path. Most people didn't know about this path at all, so how could the other party have ambushed him here so early? At this moment, even he began to suspect that one of the three chieftains had betrayed him. However, he wasn't worried about this right now, but how to escape. In the blink of an eye, the two giant pythons had been shattered, and even his pair of rings were covered in cracks. It could be seen that the person who attacked was far stronger than him. The Ling Shiqi was also a little surprised by the power of the 9-yin white bone claw. Of course, he was more surprised. He also saw that Xing had the intention to escape. With a shake of his body, he suddenly divided into 5 colorful figures and surrounded Xing. Xing finally saw the person who attacked him, but unfortunately, what he saw were 5 phantoms, which he couldn't tell whether they were real or not. The 5 Ling Shiqi formed a pentagonal shape and made a gesture respectively. Behind him, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth gathered madly and condensed into 5 formations of different colors. Spots of flowing light gathered in those formations, exuding extremely terrible spiritual energy fluctuations. Rotating light formation. The 5 formations completely blocked all of Xing's retreat, leaving him no way to escape. The flowing light fell like a meteor shower. Xing's cultivation was only at the early stage of Gang's spirit realm. The only thing he could do now was to fight desperately. Unfortunately, when he was about to use his trump card, the 5 Ling Shiqi's eyes all flashed with dazzling 9-colored light, and Xing was suddenly in a trance. It was in this moment of trance that he was killed by the countless streams of light that poured into his body. Xing was a little bit surprised. The Ling Shiqi habitually absorbed a wisp of remnant soul, but to his surprise, a system prompt appeared at this time. Mansion of the Underworld absorbed a soul. Chapter 586. Seeing this system prompt, Ling Shiqi's heart skipped a beat. He quickly put away Xing's mustard bracelet and cleaned up the scene, and then teleported into the Mansion of the Dead. As soon as he entered the Mansion of the Dead, he appeared in front of the Gate of the Dead. As expected, he saw a ghost standing there. Ling Shiqi approached and took a look. The face of the ghost was clearly Xing. But why did Xing's soul come to his Mansion of the Dead after his death? Ling Shiqi thought hard. In fact, there should be a place similar to hell in every world, so that people could continue to reincarnate after death. Now that Xing's soul came to his Mansion of the Dead, wasn't it equivalent to robbing the business of the hell in this world? But then again, his Mansion of the Dead was just a name. It had no ability to help people reincarnate, so Xing's soul could only be left here for the time being. Ling Shiqi walked around Xing's soul twice and found that the soul's eyes were dull, like a dead thing. It should be fine to leave it here. Ling Shiqi thought further. Since the Mansion of the Dead had pulled in other people's souls, it meant that the Mansion of the Dead did have the function of reincarnation. Then, as the master of the Mansion of the Dead, would there be some benefits for him to reincarnate others? Of course, this could only be confirmed after the Mansion of the Dead was upgraded. Now his top priority was to destroy the Wilderness tribe first, and then he could plan something big. Then Leng Shiqi left the mansion of the dead, but this matter also made him realize that the god-level territory he had drawn was really not simple. At the same time, in the place where Kuk was ambushed in Sanning Mountain, there were 3 more corpses on the ground. They were the 3rd leader of the Wilderness Tribe and his 2 subordinates in the Spirit Aperture Realm. The ones who killed them were the 4 masters in the Gang's Spirit Realm, including Hopu and Feng Shamo. Hopu burst into laughter and said, "Awesome, awesome. Now there are only 2 or 3 masters in the Gang's Spirit Realm left in the Wilderness Tribe. Let's go and join the main force. Tonight I will attack the Wilderness Tribe." At night, Ansen, the leader of the Wilderness Tribe, was drinking alone. It was late at night, but the 3rd leader and the 5th leader had not returned. Regardless of whether he went to Mount Sanning to investigate the situation or went to the Spirit Cultivator sect to ask for help, regardless of the result, he should have returned long ago to report back. Ansen felt uneasy. And this feeling of uneasiness was getting stronger and stronger. At this moment, he suddenly sensed that there were strong spiritual forces outside the tribe, and there were 8 of them in the Gang's spirit realm. Bang! Ansen's expression froze, and the flagon in his hand shattered on the ground. How is this possible? How is this possible? Hopu was still in the Barren River tribe during the day. When did all of them come out? A few terrified subordinates ran into the room and shouted, "Leader, something bad has happened. That Hopu is coming with a large number of experts." "What are you waiting for?" Ansen roared. "Gather the warriors and prepare for battle." Ha ha ha. Hopper's arrogant laughter echoed throughout heaven and earth. "It's too late, Ansen. Prepare to die." Ansen rushed out of the tent, only to find that the 8 people in the Gang's spirit realm led by Hopu had taken the lead to attack. Wherever they went, no one could stop them. The 8 of them were like a sharp knife stabbing into the heart of the Wilderness Tribe. Seeing his tribesmen being mercilessly slaughtered, Ansen's eyes almost popped out of his head. However, when he saw the dense warriors behind Hopu, he did not choose to fight for his life. Instead, he turned around and fled. At this time, how could he not understand that the 2nd leader, the 3rd leader, and the 5th leader must have been assassinated by Hopu long ago? Now there were only 2 people in the Gang's spirit realm left in the tribe, he and the 4th leader, while the other side had 8. How could they fight? Moreover, the spiritual aperture realm of the Barren River tribe was far more than that of the Wilderness Tribe. Coupled with the 8 people in the Gang's spirit realm killing everywhere, the Wilderness Tribe had suffered heavy losses in a short time. This was no longer an equal battle. If Ansen continued to stay here, what awaited him was only death. It was better to take this opportunity to escape. As long as he was still alive, the Wilderness Tribe would not be destroyed. Ansen himself had never thought that he would be defeated so quickly and so thoroughly. But this was the fact, and he could only accept it. At this moment, his only thought was to escape first. For Hopu, anyone in the Wilderness Tribe could live, but Ansen must die. Hopu saw Ansen turn around and flee, and he cursed, "Coward." He would never let Ansen escape, so he immediately rushed after him. Leng Shiqi executed remnant wind lightning light steps and caught up with Ansen in a few flashes as if he was teleporting. Hundreds of sword chi of star extinction formed a sword prison in the void and shrouded, and Senator Ansen turned around and was startled to find that someone had caught up with him. But when he found that the person who caught up with him was only at the 1st level of the Gang's spirit realm, he suddenly smiled coldly. "You are courting death." A powerful green light burst out from his body, and a fierce beast roar came out, shaking the space and directly shattering a large number of sword chi of star extinction. However, he didn't notice that there were several mysterious stars shining in the sword chi of star extinction. Immediately, several starlight chains fell from the sky and were about to bind Senior. But behind Ansen suddenly appeared the shadow of a ferocious behemoth as high as dozens of meters. Leng Shiqi furrowed his brows. He could only control the starlight chain to bind the 4 limbs of the phantom beast. The phantom beast continued to struggle, causing the starlight chain to shake violently, as if it would break at any moment. However, Ling Shiqi did stop and Sen. Hopu finally caught up with him. His whole body lit up with spells from the remote antiquity, and behind him, the shadow of an ancient god of war appeared. Hopu didn't use any fancy spiritual power. He just punched, and the ancient god of war punched back. In an instant, the sky darkened, as if all the spiritual power and light of heaven and earth were destroyed by the punch. Rumble. There was a loud bang in the sky, like a sudden clap of thunder. With the place where they were fighting as the center, the ground within a radius of 10,000 feet caved in deeply. Waves of terrifying spirit energy spread out, and those with slightly lower cultivations were directly washed to death. Looking at Anson again, his body was covered in bloody scars. He looked like a broken porcelain doll, but there were wisps of green light constantly repairing his body. Anson was seriously injured, and he stared at Ling Shiqi with hatred. If he hadn't been trapped by Ling Shiqi's heavenly star lock, how could he have been seriously injured by Hopu in one blow? But he didn't expect that Ling Shiqi was also staring at him, and his eyes were full of killing intent. As soon as the Demon Advent War blade appeared, a blade light condensed with all of Ling Shiqi's power tore through the night sky and cut through heaven and earth. At this moment, it was as if heaven and earth were frozen, and only this blade light was able to cut through everything. At the same time, an invisible blade light tore open Ansen's spiritual world, wantonly destroying his divine thoughts. Divine Ephemeral Bloom. Chapter 587. The strike seemed to split the sky and the earth. However, what surprised Ling Shiqi the most was that Anson was still alive. At this moment, Anson was bleeding from all his orifices. His whole body was covered in blood, but the gem on his forehead was emitting a faint light, preserving Anson's last trace of life. It was the first time that Ling Shiqi's magic flash in the pan failed. Generally speaking, he would only use this move when he was sure to kill. He didn't expect Anson to have such a strong life-saving ability. But he wasn't worried, because Anson could not escape the fate of death. At this time, Hopu attacked again. Although he was also amazed by Ling Shiqi's strike, the most important thing now was to kill Anson. Hopu said disdainfully, "The Wasteland Mother Stone can save you once, but not twice." He clenched his fists, and a momentum filled the world. When his fists fell, the earth shook as if an earth dragon turned over. At this time, Anson had no strength to resist and was buried in the abyss in an instant. Ling Shiqi absorbed a trace of Anson's soul and knew that he was finally dead. At the same time, he also got the system, and the underworld had many more souls. These were the dead people of the Wasteland tribe, including Anson. But Ling Shiqi felt it was a pity that Anson's storage bracelet would be wasted. He planned to go down and take it out when there was no one around. As soon as Anson died, Hopu couldn't help laughing wildly. He had fought with Anson for decades, and most of the time, he was suppressed by the Wasteland tribe. Now that the Wasteland tribe's defeat was certain, how could he not be excited? With Anson's death, the other fourth leader also died under the siege of several masters of Gang's spirit realm. Without Gang's spirit realm masters, the Wasteland tribe was like meat on a chopping board, completely at the mercy of others. At dawn, the battle was over, and the Wasteland tribe was wiped out. The Wasteland tribe only paid the price of dozens of low-level warriors. It could be said that it was a one-sided massacre. Hopu knew very well that it was all thanks to Ling Shiqi, who first helped the Huangchuan tribe expand its power, and then killed 3 masters of the Gang spirit realm of the Huangchuan tribe. Not only that, he had acted with extreme speed to stop Anson, who was about to escape, and had even forced Anson to use his life-saving trump card. That was how he had been killed by Hop in 2 moves. It could be said that without the Ling Shiqi, Hopu would never have been able to destroy the Wasteland tribe. Hopu walked to Ling Shiqi with a large pile of mustard seed bags in his arms. "Mr. Liu, I can't thank you enough. These are all the resources we found in the Wasteland tribe. They're all yours." Ling Shiqi was also tempted. The Wasteland tribe was equivalent to a second-rate faction, and much stronger than a second-rate faction. For example, there were only 3 Gang Spirit Realm practitioners in the Extreme Fire Manor that he had destroyed, but there were 5 in the Wilderness tribe. Moreover, the warriors cultivated by this kind of tribe were stronger than ordinary spirit cultivators. It was definitely not comparable to an ordinary second-rate faction. More importantly, the Wasteland tribe controlled 2 precious mineral veins, which was equivalent to sitting on 2 mountains of gold and silver. That was real wealth. It was precisely because the 2 mineral veins had fallen into Hopu's hands that he was so generous to give all the resources he had plundered to Leng Shiqi. Leng Shiqi did not hesitate and reached out to take them. He needed a lot of system coins to cultivate 2 pets and upgrade the mansion of the dead. From time to time, he had to buy something in the mall, so he would never complain about having too many resources. Seeing Leng Shiqi accept them, Hopu was also happy. He patted his chest and said, "Mr. Lu, I, Hopu, have always been a man of my word. After I tidy up here, I'll help you kill the Dark Thunder Guards." Leng Shiqi shook his head and said with a smile, "The Dark Thunder Guards are not easy to kill. If we really kill them openly, I'm afraid the Thunderfire dynasty will take action. At that time, we will all die without a burial place." "Well, that's true." Hopu scratched his head and said, "Mr. Lu must have his own plans. Tell me, what do you want me to do?" Leng Shiqi smiled coldly, "Chief Hopu, I remember that the Wilderness tribe originally had a mineral vein that produced ore called Star Stone. Yes, although this ore is not very precious, it is very adaptable and very suitable for refining weapons. Our Huangchuan tribe relied on this mine to survive until now. Mr. Lu mentioned the Star Stone vein because you want it." Speaking of this, Hopu was still somewhat vigilant. After all, the Star Stone vein was the foundation of his foundation. He could not afford to lose it. Leng Shiqi instantly saw through Hopu's thoughts. He said, "Chief Hopu, don't worry. I just want to use the Star Stone vein to lure the Dark Thunder Guards here." "Lure them here?" "Yes." Leng Shiqi nodded and said, "If I'm not wrong, Chief Hopu must have handed over a lot of ore to the Dark Thunder Guards every year." At the mention of this, Hopu immediately said angrily, "That Li Zhangtao is really a bastard. He wants us to hand over 30% of the Star Stone vein's production every year. Mr. Lu, do you know how many of our brothers die because of mining every year? Those are the ores we exchanged with our lives for, and Li Zhangtao wants to take away 30% with just a touch of his mouth. But if we don't give it to him, he'll come and seal the Star Stone vein, and then we won't even get a single ore. Alas, our Wilderness tribe has no other source of wealth other than the Star Stone vein. The warriors of the tribe are not good at anything except fighting, so we can only be slaughtered by Li Zhangtao. Fortunately, that brat Di Chuan has lived up to our expectations. Not only did he enter the Discipline Commission and receive great training, but he's also been sent to the imperial capital. That Li Zhangtao has only recently restrained himself a little." After listening to these words, most of them were within Leng Shiqi's expectations, but he still had a doubt, so he asked, "Chief Hopu, why do people die while mining? The warriors of the tribe are all strong and have cultivated spiritual power. It's reasonable to say that there shouldn't be any deaths." Hopu also smiled bitterly. To be honest, this Star Stone vein has been mined in the hands of the Wilderness tribe for hundreds of years. Before that, we don't know how long it has been mined. In fact, there aren't many ores left. If you want to mine, you have to go thousands of feet deep into the cave. But there's something strange down there. From time to time, some strange light will emit. Anyone who touches it will either die or be injured. I've also gone down to take a look myself, but I didn't find any clues. Those lights appear without warning, and there's no pattern at all. So, even if the people sent to mine are all elites, it's inevitable that there will be casualties." Hearing this, Leng Shiqi was even more certain of one thing. That was, a secret treasure of the Star Tribe must be under the Star Stone vein. Chapter 588. Leng Shiqi pretended to think for a while. "Chief Hopper, why don't we use the Starpoint lode to lure the Dark Thunder Guards here? What do you want to do, Mr. Lu? Hopper was also very confused. He didn't know what Ling Shiqi was thinking. Ling Shiqi chuckled. If the miners find a great treasure in the depths of the Starpoint lode, what do you think Li Zhangtao will do? Hopper was stunned. He said in confusion, but there's no treasure in the Starpoint lode. Let's not talk about that first. Based on your understanding of Li Zhangtao, what will he do? Humph. Hopper immediately snorted. If Li Zhangtao knows there's treasure in the Starpoint lode, he'll definitely bring people to rob it. He'll also threaten to confiscate all my loads if I don't hand over the treasure. You're right. Ling Shiqi continued, then I'd like to ask Chief Hopper another question. Now that we've taken down the Wasteland tribe by force, will the Discipline Commission intervene? This question was asked to Hopper. He didn't know why Ling Shiqi suddenly changed the topic. However, when he thought about it carefully, it seemed that the Discipline Commission might really come looking for trouble. Although the Huangchuan tribe had destroyed 2 third-rate sects before, they had a good reason to do so. Moreover, the Shuiyun cult and the Qin family were only third-rate sects after all. They didn't know that the Discipline Commission would go to war. However, it was different now. Although the Huangchuan tribe and the Wasteland tribe had been holding grudges for a long time, the destruction of a second-rate sect was a slap to the Discipline Commission's face. They definitely wouldn't be able to escape the investigation of the Discipline Commission. When the news got out, the Discipline Commission would definitely send people to hold them accountable. Thinking of this, Hopper was a little upset. He quickly asked, Mr. Lu, you have to help me. Ling Shiqi waved his hand and said, Don't worry, Chief Hopper. The reason why I asked you those 2 questions is that we can use Li Zhangtao to send the people of the Discipline Commission away. The more he spoke, the more confused Hopper became. Ling Shiqi had no choice but to explain, think about it. If you really found a treasure under the Star Point lode, who would know about it first other than the Huangchuan tribe? Hopu frowned and pondered for a moment before saying, Dark Thunder Guards. That's right. Although the Dark Thunder Guards are a bit of a scoundrel, their ability to gather intelligence is still top-notch. Ling Shiqi nodded. As long as Li Zhangtao knows about this, do you think he will let the people of the Discipline Commission make trouble for you? Wouldn't that be the same as giving the treasure to the Discipline Commission? Li Zhangtao is not that stupid. Hopu finally understood that Ling Shiqi was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Not only could he attract Li Anlei's guards, but he could also prevent the people of the Discipline Commission from causing trouble. However, the premise of all this was that there was a treasure in the Star Point mineral vein. But in reality, where did the treasure come from? Hee, it's still up to us whether there is a treasure or not. Ling Shiqi chuckled. I will go down the Star Point mineral vein and deliberately make some noise. The miners will accidentally find the treasure inside. Then, Leader Hopu, you just need to cooperate with me to put on a show. Hopu's eyes lit up when he heard this. Okay, Mr. Lu, please arrange it. One day later, Ling Shiqi had arrived at the Star Point mineral vein. At this time, most of the miners had been quietly transferred away, leaving only a few who were pretending to be there. Ling Shiqi soon landed in the deepest part of the Star Point mineral vein. He opened his supercilious eyes and found that his vision was blocked more than 10 miles below. It must be a high-level array that could block the supercilious eyes. Ling Shiqi's body immediately sank into the ground. He was able to move freely underground. Soon, he arrived in front of a complicated array. Seeing that the array was very similar to the one in the Zhuge family, it seemed that it was indeed the work of the Star Tribe. As soon as he appeared, dozens of starlights shot toward him. He could feel the terrible aura of destruction from those starlights. Under normal circumstances, it would be difficult for him to resist with his current strength. However, he did not need to resist at all. He quickly activated the Heavenly Star technique. With him as the center, a huge star atlas instantly appeared around him. It was the Heavenly Star Gang. The power of the Heavenly Star Gang was even stronger than the Golden Dragon Flame Gang. However, he never dared to use it in front of others. Because if someone recognized it, he would be hunted down by the whole continent. At this time, as soon as the star atlas appeared, the starlights that shot toward him suddenly dissipated. The array in front of him also slowly rotated, and a door appeared in front of him. There was no pattern on the door, only a star that shone with a bloody light. Leng Shiqi walked to the door, stretched out his index finger, and forced a drop of blood essence from his fingertip. When the blood flew into the crimson star, the star immediately twisted, and even the door kept twisting. It was as if the space was distorted. Immediately, the bloody star suddenly disappeared and was replaced by a narrow opening that could only allow one person to enter. Leng Shiqi withdrew the heavenly star gang and walked into the opening. When he entered, the outside returned to normal. The first thing that Leng Shiqi saw was a huge, lofty palace. The whole palace was dotted with stars, as if it was formed by countless stars. There was a dark blue road between him and the palace. The road was made of a strange material. Walking on it was as smooth as a mirror, but it gave people the feeling that they were strolling in the starry sky. When they felt it carefully, they found that there were traces of spiritual power actively entering their bodies. The material that paved the road was a rare treasure. Leng Shiqi took a step forward, but he heard a caw-caw sound coming from all around. Then, under the tiles, statues that were 2 people tall rose. There were hundreds of statues, and each of them was silver gray. They were expressionless, and only their eyes shone with starlight. They seemed to have their own consciousness. The scary thing was that the aura that these statues emitted was comparable to a spirit cultivator at the spirit aperture realm. Leng Shiqi was alert. He continued to try to take a few steps forward, and found that the statues had gathered together, forming 2 rows on the left and right. Then, they lowered their heads. It was as if they were welcoming their master back. Leng Shiqi thought that people with the bloodline of the Star clan could enter unimpeded. He then strode forward and went straight to the door of the main hall. On both sides of the door, there were 2 huge statues that were dozens of feet tall. When Leng Shiqi came here, the 2 statues reached out their left and right hands to help him open the door. However, the moment the door was opened, a shocking starlight suddenly burst out thousands of feet below the star vein. The starlight directly penetrated thousands of feet and went straight into the sky. The starlight outlined the shadow of the main hall in the sky, and then suddenly disappeared. Chapter 589. The starlight illuminated the world. Although it was just a flash, it still attracted some people's attention. The Huangchuan tribe immediately took action and tried their best to block the news. Anyone who saw it was either killed or given a lot of benefits to keep their mouths shut. However, this news was still leaked out. At this moment, in Ningyang County's Dark Thunder Manor, Li Zhangtao was furious. Because 3 days had passed and he still hadn't found any trace of Leng Shiqi. It was as if this person had suddenly disappeared without a trace. Not only Leng Shiqi, but the 2 people he brought with him were also the same. Trash, a bunch of trash. Li Zhangtao scolded the few senior supervisors under his command. How could you just watch 3 living people disappear right in front of your eyes? Who are you? You are the Dark Thunder Guards. You can't even find traces of 3 people. What else can you do? Do you still deserve to be the Dark Thunder Guards? Li Zhangtao was anxious. Leng Shiqi had been in Ningyang County for several days, but he couldn't find any trace of Leng Shiqi. It was even more impossible for him to know what Leng Shiqi was doing. Why did Leng Shiqi come to Ningyang County? He was here to seize power. Since he was here to seize power, of course he couldn't just hide. Li Zhangtao thought that Leng Shiqi must be hiding in the dark and planning something. As the saying goes, it's easier to dodge an open spear than an arrow in the dark. Li Zhangtao was now in the dark. He didn't know when Leng Shiqi would make a move, and he didn't know what methods Leng Shiqi would use. Therefore, he was really anxious. He no longer had the confidence that he had on the first day that he had everything under control. The 4 inspectors, including Lin Jiegui, all kept their mouths shut. They didn't even dare to breathe. They had indeed messed up this matter and deserved to be scolded. But they couldn't really be blamed. Lin Shiqi and the other two people's cultivations were too high. To be honest, only the 4 inspectors and Li Zhangtao himself could keep up with their speed. But they couldn't possibly do it themselves. But other than them, it was impossible for their subordinates to track down Lin Shiqi and the other 2. Lin Jigui and the other 3 were well aware of this, but none of them dared to say it out loud. If anyone said it out loud, it was very likely that they would be sent by Li Zhangtao to find the whereabouts of Lin Shiqi. This was a tough job, and no one was willing to do it. Therefore, they obediently waited for Li Zhangtao to finish scolding and cool down. Lin Jigui then took the opportunity to change the topic. Sir Li, I heard that the Huangchuan tribe has made a lot of movements in the past 2 days. They even destroyed the Wasteland tribe. How could Li Zhangtao not see through Lin Jigui's thoughts? But he still said, I know about this. Hopper doesn't know how to appreciate favors. But we can't do anything about it. The people of the Discipline Commission will look for him. On the other hand, Lin Jigui chuckled and said mysteriously, Sir, actually, your humble servant has also found a piece of shocking good news. Don't keep me in suspense. If you have something to say, just say it, Li Zhangtao said impatiently. Lin Jigui lowered his voice and said, Your humble servant has just received a report that the Starpoint mine of the Huangchuan tribe shone with starlight yesterday. It seems that a rare treasure has appeared. Oh. The Huangchuan tribe again. Recently, Li Zhangtao had often heard news about this tribe. This was too strange. There must be something fishy about this. The recent series of movements of the Huangchuan tribe must be fishy. Could it be that all of this had something to do with this so-called rare treasure? Li Zhangtao asked, Tell me the details. As soon as he asked, Lin Jigui secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He had finally succeeded in changing the topic. He hurriedly said, It's strange. There were no signs of the Starpoint mine. Right after Hopper attacked the Wasteland tribe, a mysterious starlight suddenly erupted. After that, Hopper even sealed off the news. But there's no secret in front of my Dark Thunder guards. My spies still found out. It's said that there's a treasure hidden thousands of feet deep in the Starpoint mine. Really? Li Zhangtao revealed an expression of interest when he heard this. It wasn't rare for there to be a rare treasure beneath the Starpoint mine. For example, the Wasteland gem that the Wasteland tribe was so proud of was dug out from the depths of the Starpoint mine. There's definitely a treasure, but I can't say for sure what kind of treasure it is. Lin Jigui didn't give a definite answer. Li Zhangtao waved his hand. Who cares what kind of treasure it is? Go and inform Hopper that the Dark Thunder guards want it. However, Lin Jigui was somewhat hesitant. Your Excellency, there's something that I don't know if I should say. Enough, hurry up and say it. Li Zhangtao was somewhat impatient. The Huangchuan tribe has just destroyed the Wasteland tribe. It's reasonable to say that the people of the Discipline Commission will hold them accountable. If news of this treasure reaches the Discipline Commission, it won't be our turn. Li Zhangtao slammed the table. You're right. Those people from the Discipline Commission have always been jealous of us. If they really know about the treasure, they won't let it go. How about this? Go and negotiate with Hopper immediately. Tell him that as long as they give the treasure to us, I'll help them block the Discipline Commission and save them a lot of trouble. I'll personally make a trip to the Discipline Commission. Your humble servant understands. Lin Jigui hurried to the Starpoint mine as quickly as possible. When he arrived, he saw Hopper personally standing guard here. Lin Jigui was even more convinced after seeing Hopper. He went straight to the point. Hopper, I'll tell you the truth. Lord Li already knows about the phenomenon at the Starpoint mine. If the Huangchuan tribe doesn't want the mine to be seized, hand over the treasure obediently. Hopper was puzzled. What are you talking about, Lord Lin? Why don't I understand? Stop pretending. Lin Jigui sneered. In the Thunderflame dynasty, who can compare to the Dark Thunder Guards in terms of intelligence? Do you think you're foolproof just because you shut some people's mouths? You're underestimating the Dark Thunder Guards too much. Hopper's expression changed. As expected, I can't hide from you. Lin Jigui laughed. Ha ha ha, Hopper, you better know your limits. You won't have a good ending if you make an enemy of the Dark Thunder Guards. Besides, Lord Li said that as long as you're willing to hand over the treasure, we can help you solve the Discipline Commission's problem. The Huangchuan tribe won't lose out at all. Hopper fell silent, but Lin Jigui was very confident. He was sure that Hopper would give in under the carrot and stick. As expected, Hopper said before long, I can agree, but I have a condition. Lin Jigui was delighted, but he didn't show it on his face. On the contrary, he said with a straight face, Hopper, you don't seem to have the right to make conditions. Sigh. Hopper sighed deeply. Then, Lord Lin, do you know why I didn't go down despite knowing that there are treasures below? It's because it's dangerous down there, and the Huangchuan tribe alone isn't enough to take the treasure. Chapter 590. Soon after, Hopu took Lin Jigui back to the deepest part of the star mineral vein, where a magnificent formation was slowly rotating. At the front, there was a gate with complicated galaxies carved on it. Hopu pointed to the gate and said, Mr. Lin, to tell you the truth, there should be a mysterious treasure here. Unfortunately, the leaders and I are not strong enough to open the gate, so we can't go in and explore it. The condition I mentioned just now is to invite many masters of the Dark Thunder Guards to break the formation together, and then the Huangchuan tribe will only take 30% of the things inside. What do you think, Mr. Lin? Lin Jigui did not answer Hopu, because his face was full of surprise and greed at this time. I'm rich, I'm rich. However, he did not fully believe Hopu's words. He pointed at the gate, and suddenly the fierce thunder Gang Chi burst out and instantly hit the gate. However, the gate did not move. Lin Jigui finally believed Hopu's words. A few masters of the Gang spirit realm could not open the gate. He was afraid that only masters of the oneness of heaven and men realm could do it in person. Only Li Zhangtao had this strength in the Dark Thunder Guards. He said, I'll report this to Mr. Li. Before we arrive, no one is allowed to get close to this place. After it's done, you will definitely benefit. Mr. Lin, don't worry. Even a fly can't fly in, Hopu assured. Then Lin Jigui rushed back to the Dark Thunder Mansion at full speed to report. At this time, two figures suddenly appeared beside Hopu. They were Leng Shiqi and Feng Shamo. Hopu immediately said, Mr. Lu is really a genius. Everything is exactly as you expected. Leng Shiqi said coldly, the Dark Thunder Guards of Ningyang County are all insatiable. In order to kill Li Zhangtao, I have planned for many years. This formation will be his grave. Chief Hopu, when Li Zhangtao comes here with his men, you only need to do this. On the other side, among the Dark Thunder Guards of Ningyang County, Li Zhangtao had just returned from the Discipline Commission. At this moment, he was reading a secret report carefully. According to the secret report, when the Baron Chuan tribe annihilated the Qin family of Blazing Sun City, a mysterious man appeared and killed the Qin family's patriarch, Qin Chuling, in 3 moves. Li Zhangtao was a little concerned about this mysterious person. Since this person had made a move in the Qin clan, could he have also participated in the battle to destroy the Water Cloud cult and the Wilderness tribe? Who on earth was this mysterious person? Why would he help the Baron Chuan tribe? More importantly, the time when the Huangchuan tribe suddenly went to destroy the Water Cloud cult overlapped with the time when the Leng Shiqi disappeared. Therefore, Li Zhangtao could not help but have a bizarre idea in his mind. Could the mysterious man be Leng Shiqi? However, according to the intelligence, the spiritual technique used by the mysterious man when he killed Qin Chuling was obviously a star cultivation method, which had nothing to do with the Leng Shiqi. This made Li Zhangtao a little uncertain. Just as he was deep in thought, Lin Jigui ran in with an excited expression, interrupting his thoughts. Li Zhangtao's expression darkened. He hated being disturbed the most. Lin Jigui also knew this, but he could not care less. He said happily, "Sir, great news. Don't make a fuss. Have you retrieved the treasure?" "No, there are no treasures under the Star Point mineral vein." Lin Jigui shook his head at first, but immediately changed the topic. "But, there are treasures in there." "What did you say?" Li Zhongtao immediately stood up, looking pleasantly surprised. "I dare not lie to you, sir. It's like this." Then, Lin Jigui told him what happened in the Star Point mineral vein and Hopu's conditions. Li Zhongtao immediately laughed. "Ha ha ha, a secret treasure. From your description, it must be a secret treasure passed down from ancient times. There are countless natural treasures in there. You did well." "Thank you, sir. But should we agree to Hopu's conditions?" "Well, agree first. Now it seems that the secret treasure is not so easy to open, and there may be some dangers inside. Let the people of the Baron Chuan tribe go in with us, and let them take the lead." Li Zhongtao said with a cold smile. "You are so wise, sir." Lin Jigui flattered him again without saying anything. Li Zhongtao pondered for a moment, and ordered, "Call Li Liang here and gather more people. We will set off now." "Yes." Lin Jigui agreed quickly, but he felt a little uncomfortable. Li Liang was also one of the 4 great supervisors of Ningyan County, with the cultivation of the middle stage of Gang's spirit realm. However, it was Lin Jigui who discovered the secret treasure from the beginning to the end. Why should he share the benefits with Li Liang? But he had no choice. Li Liang's surname was Li, and he was a close relative of Li Zhongtao. The Dark Thunder Guards mobilized people very quickly. In less than half an hour, dozens of Dark Thunder envoys in Spiritual Pulse Realm and 7 supervisors in Spiritual Aperture Realm had gathered at the gate of Dark Thunder Mansion. Li Zhongtao led Lin Jigui and Li Liang to the front. He waved his hand and said, "Let's go." Soon, masters gathered in front of the Starlight Gate under the Star Mineral Vein. There were several leaders and many elite warriors led by Hop, as well as the Dark Thunder Guards led by Li Zhongtao. But this strength was enough to challenge a first-rate sect. At this time, Li Zhongtao was looking at the Starlight Gate seriously. He clenched his fist, and a long spear appeared in his hand. As soon as this spear appeared, the narrow underground space was immediately shrouded in waves of killing intent and extreme coldness. Hopu focused his eyes and his expression changed. He recognized that this spear was a 7th-order treasure, the 10 Directions Drifting Snow Spear. This spear was made by the god Broken Mountain a few years ago, and it caused a sensation at that time. But unexpectedly, this floating snow spear fell into Li Zhongtao's hands. "Back off!" Li Zhongtao shouted. His body surged with a majestic aura of spirit energy, making the Spiritual Pulse Realm cultivators unable to breathe. Everyone retreated. They knew that Li Zhongtao was going to use all his strength to break the array. Extreme cold aura gathered on the floating snow spear. Li Zhongtao stabbed out, and instantly, a monstrous aura surged. This spear seemed to pierce through the heavens and earth. Endless frost aura exploded in front of this spear. The spear was like a dragon, like a river flowing east, breaking through the Starlight Gate. Boom! With a deafening sound, the entire underground space began to shake violently. Gravel fell as if it would collapse at any time. But everyone's eyes were locked on the gate. Could Li Zhongtao's all-out attack break through the Starlight Gate? When the light and dust dissipated, everyone saw that there was a hole in the middle of the door that was as wide as a person. The Dark Thunder Guards immediately cheered. Lin Jigui immediately flattered, "Lord Li's divine ability is unparalleled. A mere array can be broken with a flip of your hand. I admire you." Li Zhongtao's aura was a little chaotic, but before he could say anything, Hopu led his men and walked over. Chapter 591. Li Zhongtao stopped Hopu with his spirit spear and sneered, "What? I tried my best to open the passage, but you want to go in first? Do you deserve it? Hopu's face immediately turned blue and red, as if he was trying hard to suppress the anger in his heart, but he finally stepped aside. Li Zhangtao snorted and led the Dark Thunder Guards into the gap one by one. Hapa, on the other hand, had only brought along the other 3 chiefs of the Barren River tribe. During the battle, the 4 of them had been at the very back, so Li Zhangtao hadn't noticed them. In addition, the 2 masters of the gang spirit realm of the fallen maple sect were not here. They had returned to their sect. After all, they only agreed to help attack the wilderness tribe. If they had known that Leng Shiqi was going to deal with the Dark Thunder Guards, they would never have agreed. So Leng Shiqi simply let them go. Besides, he couldn't completely trust the people of the fallen maple sect. He couldn't make any mistakes in his plan, so he was a little worried about leaving the 2 behind. When they came in, they were all shocked by the scene in front of them. Especially the hall bathed in starlight. Looking from a distance, they could feel the treasure inside. Some people squatted on the ground and knocked on the ground, making a dong-dong sound. The floor tiles don't seem to be ordinary. Let's not talk about the high grade, but the purity is extremely rare. Everyone from the Dark Lightning Guards revealed a look of joy. This was indeed a treasure. However, Hopu took a step forward again. This time, all the Dark Thunder Guards glared at him. Even Li Zhangtao had some killing intent. Hopu suddenly cupped his fists and said, "Please calm down. I think it's too quiet here. I'm afraid it will explode, so I want to have a try first." Hearing this, Li Zhangtao laughed. It was good that someone took the initiative to take the risk. He said, "I see. It seems that you have misunderstood. Leader Hopu, please." Hopper then took out an ordinary star point stone, but there was an inconspicuous red dot on it. He then threw the star point stone forward, and the stone rolled along the road. The star point stone rolled all the way to the entrance of the hall. During this time, everyone only heard the sound of the stone rubbing against the ground. Other than that, nothing else happened. Li Zhangtao was secretly delighted. This also meant that the distance from here to the main hall was safe. He shouted, "Let's go." Next, the Dark Lightning Guards swarmed towards the main hall, completely ignoring Hopu and the others. Hopper also showed a displeased look, but Li Zhangtao and the others didn't even look at them. However, they didn't notice that when all the Dark Thunder Guards walked in front of them, Hopper had a cold smile on his face. Li Zhangtao's group was very fast, and due to the difference in cultivation level, there was a gap between the front and the back. The group of Spirit Pulse Realm Dark Lightning Envoys were at the back. Just as these Dark Thunder Guards ran to the middle of the road, suddenly, "Ka-ka" sounds rang out continuously, and strange statues appeared one after another. As soon as these statues appeared, they all raised their hands, and suddenly, the power of the stars shot out from their eyes. Li Zhangtao and the others were shocked. Hopu had clearly probed just now, so there shouldn't be any danger here. However, he immediately thought that maybe these statues could only sense living people. In fact, the star point stone that Hopu threw out just now had a drop of Leng Shiqi's blood essence, so it didn't trigger this restriction. Li Zhangtao also knew that now wasn't the time to think too much, because at this time, several Spirit Pulse Realm Dark Lightning Envoys had already died. His long spear shook, and waves of extremely cold spirit gang surged out like ripples. Wherever it went, the power of the stars was all destroyed. Of course, the hundreds of statues didn't only have this ability. At this moment, all the statues shook together, and a strange power spread out. This power didn't seem like spiritual power, but the aura was comparable to a Spirit Aperture Realm cultivator. This time, Li Zhangtao's expression was abnormally ugly. Facing hundreds of statues with the power of the Spirit Aperture Realm, even he could fall here. What exactly was this place, and why was there such a terrifying mechanism? He originally thought that this was only a secret treasure found under a medium-grade mine. Even if there was some danger, with his strength of unity of heaven and man realm, he could completely deal with it. But now, he suddenly felt that he seemed to be a bit careless. A few thoughts flashed through Li Zhangtao's mind, and he quickly looked around, as if looking for a way to close these statues. However, the statues didn't give them time to think. Hundreds of statues directly rushed towards the dark thunder guards closest to them, and in an instant, flesh and blood flew everywhere, dyeing the sky red. As for Hopu and the other 3 leaders, they also went deep into the statues, but if anyone paid attention to them, they would realize that the statues didn't take the initiative to attack Hopu and the others. This was because Hopu and the others were all wearing a jade pendant. There was nothing special about this jade pendant, and it only had a drop of Leng Shiqi's blood essence on it, so they were considered to be on the same side by the statues. And Hopu was using the statues as a cover, slowly approaching Li Zhangtao's side. There were endless screams. Most of the Dark Thunder Guards were only in the spiritual pulse realm, and there was almost no room for resistance in front of the statues. Only the 7 inspectors in the spiritual aperture realm could hold on for a while. However, the 7 of them were now besieged by multiple statues, and their lives were in danger. Lin Jiegue and Li Liang were both masters in the gang spirit realm. The 2 of them could easily kill the statues without any intelligence, but they also knew that this was not a long-term plan. Li Zhangtao looked for a while and couldn't find anything like the eye of the formation, so he had to sweep his long spear. Suddenly, the temperature in this small space plummeted, and even snowflakes and ice crystals fell from the sky. The floating snow spear of 10 directions stabbed repeatedly, and the new moon swept across. Terrifying ice and snow gang raged, and in the blink of an eye, a large number of statues were destroyed, creating a vacuum within 1,000 feet of him. The remaining dozen or so people immediately gathered around him. Li Zhangtao's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. He had painstakingly trained these Dark Thunder Guards. Now, in less than half an incense stick's worth of time, only these few people were left. His heart was bleeding. "Your Excellency Li, let me help you." Hopu smashed several statues in front of him with a heavy punch, shouted loudly, and surrounded him with the other 3 leaders. Li Zhangtao also nodded and said, "Leader Hopu is really wise. Now we are in danger, and only by joining hands can we survive and find the secret treasure." That's. Hopu had already come to Li Zhangtao's side. He smiled kindly, but he didn't finish his sentence. Immediately, he clenched his fists, and dozens of spells with ancient breath lit up all over his body. With a hum, a god of war shadow of more than 100 feet high emerged. Not only him, but the other 3 leaders also did the same. For a moment, 4 phantoms surrounded Li Zhangtao, and 8 mountain-like fists fell on him. At the same time, a shocking illusory wind spiritual gang suddenly appeared, which could cut mountains and rivers. Finally, a strange evil beast flashed in the void, and countless colorful flowers floated down from the sky, shining in all directions, which were magnificent. In the face of this sudden attack, Li Zhangtao was shocked and angry. "Who dares to set me up?" Chapter 592. Eunuch Gao had a low opinion of Li Zhangtao, but no matter what, he was still a great master in the realm of oneness of heaven and men. He was also the inspector who had been in charge of Ningyang County for nearly 10 years. He still had the most basic shrewdness. He instantly saw that someone was deliberately setting up a trap against him. But at this critical moment, he had no time to think about it. Facing the sneak attack of 6 masters of Gang Spirit Realm, even Li Zhangtao dared not to be careless. Because the 6 people who attacked him were all strong. The leaders of the Barren River tribe, led by Hopu, had grown from countless battles and had the support of ancient secret skills, so their strength was infinite. As for Feng Shamo and Leng Shiqi, there was no need to even mention them. They were definitely the best amongst their peers. Li Zhangtao held the long spear upside down, and the momentum of the spear changed. The spear momentum became soft, and the white light on the spear suddenly rolled back, and a terrible suction suddenly came. The white light condensed into a huge vortex, swallowing everything around it. Whether it was the shadow of the war god, the phantom wind blade, or thousands of sword chi, they were all swallowed up. As more and more energy was swallowed, the white vortex became bigger and bigger, and its color became more complex. Li Zhangtao's face also turned pale. It seemed that although he temporarily resolved the sneak attack of several people, he was also suffering. A touch of anger flashed across Li Zhangtao's face. Immediately, he directly detonated the strange vortex, and the terrible spiritual power burst out, madly spreading with him as the center. Everything touched by this energy, whether it was a statue or a spirit cultivator, was completely destroyed. Retreat. Lin Shiqi moved his feet and instantly retreated hundreds of feet away. Feng Shamo also moved his shadow and quickly left, but the speed of Hopu and the other three was far less fast. Although they retreated in advance, they were still affected by the power of the explosion. Fortunately, the ancient spell on their bodies offset a lot of power, and they were all slightly injured. The most unlucky ones were the Dark Thunder Guards around Li Zhangtao. There were more than 10 people left, but now there were only 4 people left. Lin Jiegue and Li Liang were also very depressed. They did not die under the siege of the many statues, but almost died in the hands of their own superior. But at this time, they didn't care about this, especially Lin Jiegue. He also saw that this wasn't a secret treasure. Clearly, someone deliberately set them up to die. Lin Jiegue recalled that from the moment his subordinates received the news, to him personally coming to check it out, and then going back to invite Li Zhangtao, all of this had been planned by someone. What was laughable was that Lin Jia had originally thought that his subordinate's detection ability was extremely strong, which was why he had detected the treasure under the Star Point mineral vein. Now, it seemed that someone had deliberately leaked it to him. The other party had taken advantage of their greedy nature to set up this trap. For the first time, Lin Jiegue resented his own greed. Unfortunately, he would not have the chance to correct it. Li Zhangtao didn't feel good either. He had been an inspector of Ningyang County for 10 years and was used to the feeling of being high and mighty. No force dared to provoke him, so he could take any benefits he wanted. After a long period of smooth sailing, his vigilance had slowly been worn down. In fact, there were some small flaws in the whole process. If he had maintained a high level of vigilance, he might have found something fishy. Unfortunately, it was useless for him to regret it now. He was staring at Lin Shiqi because Lin Shiqi had activated the wild evil demon blood beast body. He had 4 arms and a tail behind him. Li Zhangtao recognized his appearance. Lin Shiqi had used the wild evil demon blood beast body in the Dark Thunder Guard headquarters in Shantai County, so the relevant information about him had been collected long ago. After knowing that Lin Shiqi had been sent to Ningyang County to seize power, Li Zhangtao had also specially searched for all the information about Lin Shiqi. Naturally, he knew some of the characteristics of Lin Shiqi's spiritual techniques. He recognized Lin Shiqi and suddenly realized that after Lin Shiqi disappeared, he had secretly hidden in the Huangchuan tribe. Lin Shiqi had been behind all the big movements of the Wasteland tribe recently. No wonder the Huangchuan tribe, which was originally neither strong nor weak, suddenly became so fierce. They had destroyed 2 third-rate forces and the Wasteland tribe in succession, shocking the entire Ningyang County. Li Zhangtao was also secretly angry. Not long ago, he had also found a flaw, but unfortunately, he was interrupted by Lin Jiegue before he could think about it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to come here so easily. Li Zhangtao was furious. He shouted hatefully, "Lu Xingji, it was you who did this. What are you trying to do?" What am I trying to do? Of course, Lord Li knows. Lin Shiqi sneered. Coupled with his transformed appearance, he looked extremely evil. Then, he transmitted his voice to Feng Shamo and Hopu, continue to retreat and accumulate power. Then, all the surrounding statues rushed toward Li Zhangtao and the others. Although many of these statues had been destroyed, there were still 100 or 200 of them. Li Zhangtao and the others had consumed a lot of spiritual power after the successive battles. Seeing so many statues rushing toward them, their hearts sank. Even Li Zhangtao secretly breathed a sigh of relief. In the beginning, he had used about 20% of his spiritual power to open the Starlight Gate. Later, he had used another 10% to break many statues. The most important thing was that he had resisted the sneak attack of Lin Shiqi and the other 5 masters of Gang's spirit realm and used one of his most powerful spiritual skills. At this time, his spiritual power was less than 50%. Li Zhangtao hurriedly swallowed a few elixirs to restore his spiritual power. Holding the floating snow spear in front of him, he looked like a man who could hold back 10,000 enemies. He said in a low voice, "You block the back. Leave the front to me." 100 or 200 statues swarmed forward, but Li Zhangtao could smash a dozen of them with a casual blow. Although Lin Jigui and the others were busy resisting, at least they could hold on for the time being. At this moment, Lin Shiqi made a move. The 4 arms on his body made a gesture at the same time. In an instant, he divided into 5 phantoms and scattered in the shape of a pentagon. Immediately, 5 formations of different colors emerged, but not on the ground, but in the sky. At the same time, the whole space suddenly became hot and dry. Bursts of scorching air rushed toward them. Flames flashed across, and a complicated formation appeared on the ground. The spiritual power of the 5 Lin Shiqi surged wildly, even causing a small spiritual storm. Then, countless streamers fell from the sky. On the ground, 9 thick golden fire pillars rose into the sky, and there was a faint dragon roar in the air. Lin Shiqi had displayed the rotating light formation and the 9 palaces fire formation at the same time. Li Zhangtao's extreme cold gang was greatly suppressed in an instant. He couldn't help but change his expression. However, Lin Shiqi's target was not him, but Lin Jigui and Li Liang. Chapter 593. In the rotating light formation, thousands of streamers of various colors covered the sky and earth. On the ground, the fire pillars of the golden dragon flame raged, destroying the world. Both the streamers and the fire pillars targeted Lin Jigui and Li Liang. It was true that Li Zhangtao was the most powerful opponent, but Lin Jigui and Li Liang were also masters of Gang's spirit realm. Besides, they had coveted a lot of resources over the years. No one would believe that they didn't have any trump cards. If Lin Shiqi and others besieged Li Zhangtao and ignored these 2 people, accidents might happen. Therefore, they had to get rid of these 2 potential dangers first. Lin Jigui and Li Liang were also shocked. They didn't expect that Lin Shiqi would attack them first. What was more, they didn't expect that Lin Shiqi would be so powerful. Was this really the power of an early stage of Gang's spirit realm? This was indeed the first time that Lin Shiqi had used all his strength after breaking through Gang's spirit realm. After the breakthrough, the power of his wild demon blood beast body had also increased. In addition, his own strength was abnormal. At this time, his state was completely comparable to the late stage of Gang's spirit realm. In the sky and on the ground, there were colorful streamers and flames. Thunder exploded around Lin Jigui, and the violent power of thunder and lightning rushed around, trying to resist. However, at this time, Feng Shamo also took action. He waved his 7th-level precious weapon, Heaven-Hating Wind Saber. 2 small sabers flew out in a crisscross pattern, which seemed to have no power. But the weird thing was that the 2 saber auras ignored the distance between them and all the streams of light and fire and instantly appeared in front of Lin Jigui. Lin Jigui was shocked. Who was this man? He had a 7th-level precious weapon and such a strange spiritual skill. But he was still resisting Lin Shiqi's attack and couldn't afford to be distracted. He hurriedly took out a tortoise shell from his ring hand and spat a mouthful of blood on it. Then the tortoise shell quickly enlarged and formed a huge shield in front of him. Chi-chi, 2 soft sounds rang out, and 2 extremely fine cracks appeared on the shield. Then, Lin Jigui's expression froze. He looked down and saw that his skin and flesh had been torn open, and his internal organs had been shattered. Ah! Lin Jigui opened his mouth, but he didn't say anything. Without the support of his spiritual energy, the surrounding lightning suddenly disappeared. His figure was instantly engulfed by the sky full of flowing light and terrifying dragon flames. Not even his bones remained. At the same time, the three leaders led by Hopu had surrounded and killed Li Liang. At this point, Li Zhangtao was the only dark lightning guard left. From the time Ling Shiqi attacked until now, only 3 or 4 breaths of time had passed. It could be said that they had killed the 2 great inspectors of the Dark Thunder Guards so quickly. Normally, they wouldn't be so relaxed. This was due to Lin Jiegui having consumed a large amount of spiritual energy. And it was also due to Li Zhangtao. After all, when he exploded the magical vortex, Lin Jiegui was also injured. Li Zhangtao also saw that Ling Shiqi and the others had split up to kill Lin Jiegui and Li Liang. He also wanted to help, but at this time, all the statues rushed towards him without fear of death. Even if he was at the unity of heaven and man realm, he couldn't rush out of the encirclement of more than 100 statues comparable to the spirit aperture realm. Seeing Lin Jiegui and Li Liang killed, Li Zhangtao was furious. His expression was ferocious, and his eyes became incomparably red, like a hungry beast. He stared at Ling Shiqi with murderous intent and roared, "Lu Xingji, you dared to kill your comrades and set up a trap to harm me. When I get out, I will make you pay a heavy price." Ling Shiqi sneered and said, "Get out. I didn't expect Sir Li to be so naive. Do you think you still have a chance to get out? You." Li Zhangtao's body trembled. When he saw the shocking murderous intent in Ling Shiqi's eyes, his heart thumped. Ling Shiqi wanted to kill him. Even though Li Zhangtao thought of it, he still didn't dare to believe it. Who was he? He was the trusted aide of the Dark Thunder Guard's chief steward Li, a direct descendant of the Li clan, the patrol inspector of the Dark Thunder Guard in Ningyang County, and a great expert at the unity of heaven and man realm. Any one of these identities was enough to shake a region, so when he knew that it was Ling Shiqi's trap, he didn't think that Ling Shiqi would kill him. In his mind, Ling Shiqi wanted nothing more than to get rid of all of his wings, destroy his foundation, and force him to hand over the patrol inspector position. But at this moment, Li Zhangtao finally understood. Ling Shiqi wanted to kill him. He dared to kill him. Ling Shiqi waved his hand, and Feng Shamo and the others surrounded Li Zhangtao from all angles. A trace of fear suddenly appeared in Li Zhangtao's heart. Li Zhangtao was a great expert at the unity of heaven and man realm, but his cultivation was forcibly broken through with the help of external objects. His foundation was not as good as that of a spirit cultivator who broke through by himself, so it had been more than 10 years since he reached the unity of heaven and man realm, but he was still at the early stage of the unity of heaven and man realm. If nothing unexpected happened, he was afraid that he would stop here for the rest of his life. Before this, he didn't care. The unity of heaven and man realm was already a strong expert, and he was also in charge of a large number of resources in Ningyang County. Even if he was old, he would have no regrets. But now, he regretted it. Who were the enemies in front of him? The 4 leaders of the Barren River tribe were all at the middle and late stage of the Gang Spirit realm, especially Hopu, who was at the peak of the Gang Spirit realm. They had ancient secret skills and experienced countless battles. Even if it was a normal breakthrough of the unity of heaven and man realm, it would not be so easy to kill these 4 people. And Feng Shamo, who had just made a move, was so terrible that Li Zhangtao was not sure that he could block it. And Feng Shamo also had a 7th level precious weapon. Who was he? Of course, the biggest threat was Ling Shiqi. Li Zhangtao had read the information about Ling Shiqi and knew the achievements of Ling Shiqi. When he was at the middle stage of the Spirit Aperture realm, he killed Wei Xiangming, who was at the middle stage of the Gang Spirit realm. When he was at the half step of the Gang Spirit realm, he killed Elder Wan, who was at the late stage of the Gang Spirit realm of the Sky Crane Gang. Now Ling Shiqi was at the Gang Spirit realm, so how strong was his real strength? More importantly, the reason why the unity of heaven and man realm was far stronger than the Gang Spirit realm was that they could directly mobilize all kinds of spiritual power between heaven and earth. They had already touched a trace of the power of heaven and earth with their human bodies, which was the so-called unity of heaven and man realm. What Li Zhangtao practiced was cold qi, so he could directly extract the ice spiritual power between heaven and earth, which made him have the power of ice and snow with a wave of his hand. But now the whole secret space was almost filled with the golden earth dragon flame. Under the burning of the strange fire of heaven and earth, the ice spiritual power here was almost burned out. Li Zhangtao could not mobilize much ice spiritual power at all, which meant that he did not have much advantage except that his own spiritual power was more powerful. So when he was surrounded by the 6 people of Leng Shiqi, even if his cultivation was far higher than theirs and he had a trump card, he could not help but feel a little scared. He was afraid of death. Leng Shiqi keenly saw through Li Zhangtao's mind and sneered, "The inspector of Ningyang County, a master of the unity of heaven and man realm, is afraid? You are really a loser." Leng Shiqi hit the nail on the head, and Li Zhangtao was like a cat whose tail was guessed. He suddenly exploded, "Lu Xingji, even if I die today, I will drag you down with me. Only a loser would say such words, but you'd better deal with these things first." Leng Shiqi waved his hand, and the remaining hundreds of statues continued to rush to Li Zhangtao like moths to a flame. Chapter 594. Leng Shiqi also knew that the 6 people on his side were very strong, but he didn't dare to be careless. This was the first time he faced an expert in the unity of heaven realm. As long as you weren't in the unity of heaven realm, you would never know how terrifying this realm was. Moreover, Li Zhangtao had been in Ningyang County for a long time, so he must have a lot of trump cards. Rushing up rashly would give him an opportunity. Therefore, Leng Shiqi planned to make the best use of the statues to wear down Li Zhangtao's spirit energy. He also knew that Li Zhangtao used external objects to break through, so his spirit energy was definitely not very pure. If Li Zhangtao wanted to deal with these 100 statues, he would have to use a lot of spirit energy. This was a soft knife. Leng Shiqi also didn't plan to rely on the statues. His 4 limbs changed the spirit seals, and the 9 palace fire diagram that hadn't dissipated yet moved over. The surrounding air instantly became extremely explosive, and the rolling heat waves almost squeezed out all the ice spirit energy between heaven and earth, weakening Li Zhangtao's strength. The white light on Li Zhangtao's 10 directions floating snow spear dimmed a bit, and his face became even uglier. "That's a heavenly flame!" he exclaimed. Leng Shiqi's information only said that he suspected to have a heavenly flame, but after seeing it with his own eyes, he couldn't help but be amazed. As soon as the heavenly flame appeared, the entire space was filled with fire spirit energy. Not only was Li Zhangtao unable to use his ice spirit energy, but his ice spirit techniques were also greatly reduced. What made Li Zhangtao even more resentful was that Leng Shiqi only controlled the 9 fire pillars to move left and right, but didn't take the initiative to attack. He still used the statues to besiege him. Li Zhangtao knew that if this continued, he would be tortured to death sooner or later, so he might as well fight. Then he quickly took out a white jade box. He opened it, and a finger-length white silkworm was lying inside. As soon as the box was opened, a dense cold air was emitted from the ice silkworm, which could actually resist a portion of the pure gold earth dragon flames. Ho Pu's eyes widened, and he said in surprise, "That's the immortal ice silkworm, a treasure for cultivators who cultivate ice spirit energy. It's comparable to an 8th-tier treasure." He wasn't wrong. This immortal frost ice silkworm was something that Li Zhangtao always carried with him for cultivation. However, at this moment, he picked up the ice silkworm and swallowed it. Soon after, a layer of terrifying frost appeared on Li Zhangtao's face. However, his aura became even more berserk. Even the cold qi that was suppressed by the pure gold earth dragon flame was rebounded a little. Leng Shiqi narrowed his eyes. Li Zhangtao was using the immortal chilling ice silkworm as a means to continuously supply him with spiritual energy. This method would definitely harm the immortal chilling ice silkworm. It would also cause the spirit veins in Li Zhangtao's body to be filled with cold energy, ultimately causing them to freeze. This was undoubtedly killing the goose that laid the golden eggs. However, Li Zhangtao didn't care about this at all. He only wanted to kill. Leng Shiqi saw that the method of consuming spiritual power was not working. He moved his hands behind his back, and the 9 pillars of fire suddenly turned into dragons that roamed the sky. 9 dragons streaked across the sky, their might shaking the surroundings. Leng Shiqi's spiritual power surged and locked onto Li Zhangtao. Soon after, the 9 pure gold fire dragons flew down. The entire small space was filled with scorching dragon flames. Since he couldn't continue to exhaust his spiritual power, he could only attack head-on. He wanted to see if his pure gold earth dragon flame could suppress the immortal chilling ice silkworm. Feng Shamo and Ho Pu no longer held back. In the blink of an eye, 4 enormous war gods appeared. However, this time, they didn't fight individually. Instead, they formed a simple formation. Although the formation was simple, it could completely gather the power of the 4 people. Looking up, 8 mountain-like fists smashed down one after another. Feng Shamo didn't move. If one looked closely, they would see that his eyes had turned pitch black. There was no other emotion in them, only one. That was hatred. The 9 dragons roared, and the fist broke the river. Under such a terrifying attack, Li Zhangtao roared madly. 2 streams of blood flowed from the corners of his eyes. It was clear that he was forced into a dead end. Li Zhangtao raised his spear, and a violent spiritual power fluctuation spread out. Even the surrounding space was visibly distorted. The spear pierced out, and the ice river flowed to the east. The ice river reversed and collided with the fire dragon. The 2 opposing forces, ice and fire, fiercely collided, causing the small space to tremble. When Ho Pu and the others' fists landed, a demonic dagger appeared in Li Zhangtao's left hand. When the dagger slashed out, there wasn't any blade aura. Instead, there was a blurred light. Ho Pu and the others instantly fell into a boundless illusion. However, to Leng Shiqi, this illusion technique was nothing at all. His main body made a strange hand seal, and a 9-colored spirit light suddenly erupted. There seemed to be a 9-colored vortex spinning in his eyes. Li Zhangtao's eyes also seemed to reflect a 9-colored light. Li Zhangtao's divine sense suddenly stagnated, and even the spiritual power in his body stopped circulating. Flowing light illusion technique. Fortunately, the dagger in his hand suddenly trembled violently, helping him break free from the illusion. However, in this moment of distraction, his ice river shattered, causing the fire dragon to wreak havoc, and it had already arrived. Li Zhangtao stretched out his hand, and a blurry figure suddenly appeared from the ring on his finger. The figure held a spirit sword, and its appearance was somewhat similar to Li Jueqing's. The illusory figure pointed the sword, and suddenly, the space was destroyed. The flame dragon was torn apart, and the sword broke the fist aura. In fact, the illusory figure was their Li family's ancestor. Any family member who broke through to the unity of heaven and man realm would be qualified to receive this ring, which contained the will of the Li family's ancestor. Although it was just a will, it was comparable to the full-force attack of a mid-stage unity of heaven and man realm cultivator. Li Zhangtao finally resolved this wave, but before he could breathe a sigh of relief, Feng Shamo had already slashed out. His heaven-hating extreme wind blade had become incomparably dim. When he slashed out, there was no blade aura or blade light. Only a strange blade intent directly attacked Li Zhangtao's mind. Li Zhangtao had just barely broken free from the control of the flowing light illusion technique, and his mind was still unstable. Feng Shamo's blade intent broke into his mind without any obstruction. However, Li Zhangtao didn't feel any discomfort. He easily repelled Feng Shamo with the tip of his spear. He didn't understand the meaning behind Feng Shamo's actions. If Feng Shamo had used the same blade technique that killed Lin Jigui, then he would have been seriously injured at the very least. However, he didn't have time to think about it, because the others had already attacked. Especially Leng Shiqi, who condensed a dazzling black and white brilliance on his left and right. The holy radiance and dark demonic power didn't repel each other, but instead merged together. Leng Shiqi raised his arms high, and the black and white streams of light rushed into the sky. They intertwined with each other and condensed into a black and white dragon. The dragon was about 50 to 60 feet long. As soon as it appeared, it soared into the sky. The power of yin and yang destruction on its body directly caused the 5 elements in the space to become chaotic. Yin and yang were reversed, and the spiritual power of heaven and earth was pushed out. Void Swimming Dragon. Chapter 595. Li Zhangtao, Hopper, and the others were shocked to find that they couldn't use spiritual Highland, and Li Zhangtao was completely unable to communicate with the ice spiritual power between heaven and earth. His pupils suddenly shrank. At that moment, he seemed to see the figure of the Grim Reaper. However, he didn't give up. Instead, he took out several strange-looking things. These were all life-saving trump cards that he had accumulated over the years. The yin-yang dragon attacked directly. Yin and yang intertwined, and its power was unparalleled. Li Zhangtao patted a doll in his hand. Immediately, the doll continued to grow, and it turned into a huge puppet that was more than 100 feet tall. He tore 2 pieces of spiritual paper in succession. Then, a curtain of water and a mountain peak appeared in front of him. He crushed a scarlet heart that was still beating. As blood filled the air, a demon that seemed to have crawled out of the netherworld was faintly discernible. Li Zhangtao actually had so many trump cards. As the yin-yang dragon roared, the puppet was instantly crushed into powder. Waves of terrifying destructive power stirred up the water curtain, splitting mountains and rivers. In the end, the demon didn't even have the chance to fully reveal its body before it was directly turned into dust by the extreme yang power. However, these trump cards also bought Li Zhangtao some time. He directly burned his essence blood, turned into a ray of blood light, and rushed to the entrance. Unfortunately, at that moment, a voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Do you hate? You hate the heavens for being unfair. You hate Lu Xingji for plotting to kill you. You hate Lin Jigui for being greedy and causing you to be in danger. You hate eunuch Gao for wanting to take away your power. That voice was like a curse that kept reverberating in his mind, and every word it said hit his soul directly. Yes, he hated it. Of course he hated it. He couldn't wait to kill Ling Shiqi, and even eunuch Gao. Li Zhangtao's footsteps suddenly stopped. His face was full of crazy hatred, but his eyes were strangely black. Ling Shiqi knew that this was Feng Shemo's move. He couldn't miss this good opportunity. Holding the demon arrival battle saber, he immediately slashed out a shocking saber light. In an instant, time and space seemed to be stagnant. The entire starlight space suddenly dimmed, as if there were only 2 colors left between heaven and earth. Everyone's movements seemed to slow down, especially Li Zhangtao. The expression on his face was extremely ferocious. His eyes were motionless, as if they were frozen. But at that moment, there was a crack sound in the space, and Li Zhangtao's body shattered like a mirror. At the same time, a saber light to tear through his mental defense and directly cut off his consciousness. Divine Ephemeral Flash. Ling Shiqi's gang qi, blood qi, evil qi, devil qi, demon qi, evil qi, and even his killing intent and will had all been infused into it. When everything returned, everything, to Li's S, and Li's his, Li S to his. Ling Shiqi had already lost all his buffs. His face was as pale as paper, and countless fine cracks appeared on his body. Blood seeped out and dyed him red. Maintaining the wild evil demon blood beast body for a long time was already a huge burden. Moreover, this was the first time he had used the Great Void Swimming Dragon and Divine Ephemeral Flash at the same time. All the strength in his body was almost exhausted, and even his spiritual meridians were beginning to shrink. He swallowed a few pills and absorbed a wisp of Li Zhangtao's remnant soul. Only then did his face become a little rosy. At that moment, the demon arrival battle saber in his hands suddenly let out a loud buzzing sound. Strangely, the demon arrival battle saber absorbed all the remaining blood of Li Zhangtao. The demon arrival saber trembled violently in Ling Shiqi's hand. The demon arrival battle saber soon calmed down, but there was a thin line of blood on the saber's body. Feng Shamo was attracted by the movement. Seeing the abnormality of the demon arrival battle saber, he said in surprise, "This saber is quite extraordinary. It has the potential to be promoted to a 7th level precious weapon." He had a 7th level heaven-hating saber, so he had the right to speak. Of course, what surprised him the most was Ling Shiqi's strength. When he was in Shantai Prefecture, Feng Shamo also saw Ling Shiqi activate the wild evil demon blood beast body and use the great void swimming dragon to kill Elder Wan. But at that time, Ling Shiqi was only a half-step to Gang's spirit realm, and Feng Shamo also thought that he could kill Elder Wan, so he regarded Ling Shiqi as an equal. But in today's battle, he clearly saw that Ling Shiqi's strength had made a qualitative leap. Whether it was the 9 Palaces Fire Formation, the Great Void Swimming Dragon, or Divine Ephemeral Flash, they were all much more powerful than when he was a half-step to Gang's spirit realm. Feng Shamo had realized that Ling Shiqi's strength seemed to have surpassed his. It could be said that he had witnessed Ling Shiqi's growth from the spirit transformation realm to the present. The speed of Ling Shiqi's progress made him very frightened. Feng Shamo found it a little hard to accept. The feeling of being surpassed by a junior step by step was really uncomfortable. The key was that Feng Shamo was arrogant and proud. In the face of Ling Shiqi's strong rise, he couldn't help but have a strong desire to win. But he didn't want to suppress Ling Shiqi. Instead, he wanted to continue to leave Ling Shiqi behind with his own strength. Hopu and the others stood there in a daze after Li Zhangtao's death and didn't come to their senses until now. Hopu walked quickly to Li Zhangtao's shriveled body with an incredulous expression on his face. Li Zhangtao, the inspector of Ningyang County and a Grand Master in the oneness of heaven and men realm, died like this? He died at their hands. Ever since Li Zhangtao became the inspector of Ningyang County, he had angered everyone. Forces like the Baron Chuan tribe were the most difficult to deal with, and they had been oppressed by Li Zhangtao over the years. Now that the culprit had died at their hands, Hopu felt like he was dreaming. Ling Shiqi walked to his side and said, "We were able to kill Li Zhangtao this time thanks to leader Hopu and the other 3 leaders. Don't worry, this matter won't involve the Baron Chuan tribe." Li Zhangtao, the inspector of the Dark Thunder Guards, the 2 inspectors, and many Dark Thunder envoys had died at the Star Point mine. If this matter was exposed, the Baron Chuan tribe would definitely suffer the wrath of the Thunderfire dynasty. However, Ling Shiqi was already prepared. Hopu nodded and said, "I believe in Mr. Lu's ability, but can I know Mr. Lu's true identity now?" In fact, during the battle, Li Zhangtao had called out Ling Shiqi's alias, so his identity was definitely not simple. "Well, Leader Hopu should know. If nothing unexpected happens, you will know my identity in a few days." While they were talking, the space suddenly shook a few times, and the space in the sky was distorted. Ling Shiqi's expression changed and he shouted, "Oh no, the formation is about to collapse. We have to leave here quickly." Chapter 596. The distance between the Star Point Lode and the Dark Thunder Mansion of Ningyang County was neither far nor close. It would take 4 or 5 days to go back and forth. At this time, the other 2 supervisors were still drinking in the Dark Thunder Mansion, preparing to welcome Li Zhangtao back. But they didn't expect that it was Ling Shiqi who came. Boom! With a loud noise, the gate of the Dark Thunder Mansion was directly smashed. Ling Shiqi, Feng Shamo and Sulwan strode into the Dark Thunder Mansion. Such a big movement naturally attracted many Dark Thunder guards. But when they all saw Ling Shiqi dressed as an eunuch, they all hid far away and dared not to question him. The 2 supervisors heard the noise and came. At first, they were gloomy, but when they saw Ling Shiqi, they were surprised. They looked at each other and secretly transmitted a message, "He is Lu Xingji. Why did he suddenly show up? He doesn't come with good intentions. Maybe he dares to make trouble when Lord Li is not here. Let's not show any flaws and just send him away." They cupped their hands and said at the same time, Luo Wu and Xiang Zhichen pay our respects to Lord Eunuch. However, Ling Shiqi didn't say anything. Instead, he raised his hand and threw a bloody thing to them. The object fell to the ground with a thud, and a foul stench assaulted their nostrils. Luo Wu, Xiang Zhichen, and Ding Yan were horrified when they saw it. The object on the ground was half of Li Zhangtao's head. Lord Li. Luo Wu was so scared that his eyes were about to pop out. Didn't Li Zhangtao go to the Star Point Lode to get the secret treasure? How could he die? And he died in the hands of Ling Shiqi. Xiang Zhichen pointed at Ling Shiqi, but his fingers were trembling slightly. He trembled and said, You. He opened his mouth for a long time, but he couldn't even finish a sentence. As a master of Gang's spirit realm, he lost his composure like this. It could be imagined that they were really scared out of their wits at the moment. Ling Shiqi threw out a pile of things. There were accounts, evidence, confessions, and so on. These were all evidence of Li Zhangtao's crimes. During this period of time, Suwan had not shown herself. She had been gathering evidence. When Li Zhangtao first came to Ningyang County 2 years ago, he did some cover-up. However, later on, he became more and more brazen. Therefore, this evidence was very easy to collect. Ling Shiqi then took out the investigation document given to him by Eunuch Gao and shouted, Li Zhangtao is audacious. He used his position as an inspector to seek benefits, ignored the rules of the Dark Thunder Guards, and made the entire Ningyang County a mess. I was ordered by Steward Gao to investigate Ningyang County. Li Zhangtao had committed a heinous crime and deserved to die. Now that I'm going to take over Dark Thunder Manor temporarily, why aren't you kneeling? Ling Shiqi's words were powerful and resonated throughout Dark Thunder Manor like thunder. Everyone who heard these words knelt on the ground, their bodies trembling slightly. Only Luo Wu and Xiang Zhichen did not kneel because they were still in a daze. Li Zhangtao was an expert in the unity of heaven and man realm. He did not go to the star mineral vein alone. He also brought Lin Jiegui and Li Liang, 2 experts in the Gang spirit realm, several experts in the spirit aperture realm, and dozens of Dark Thunder Guards in the spiritual pulse realm. These people alone were enough to easily destroy an ordinary second-rate sect. However, these people, including Li Zhangtao, were all dead. How was this possible? Humph. Seeing that the 2 of them did not kneel, Ling Shiqi snorted coldly. In an instant, the sky was covered with dark clouds and thunder burst out. A rolling thunder cloud appeared. Ling Shiqi pressed one hand and the thunder cloud stirred. Immediately, a giant hand reached out from the thunder cloud. Lightning flashed and suppressed everything. Purple lightning hand. Only then did Luo Wu and Xiang Zhichen come to their senses. They did not expect Ling Shiqi to suddenly make a move. The giant hand in the air did not fall quickly, but there was a strong suppressive force, which made them feel like Mount Tai was pressing down on them. Different spiritual highlands flashed around the 2 of them, while Ling Shiqi's left hand quietly formed a seal. Strands of 9-colored light flowed continuously. He suddenly shouted, How dare you resist? Kneel down. Kneel down. Kneel down. Kneel down. These words kept echoing in the sky. Luo Wu and Xiang Zhichen's minds were like being struck by lightning. There was a brief moment of absent-mindedness, and the gang spirit they just condensed dissipated. The purple extreme lightning hand descended, slapping viciously onto the 2 people's bodies. Bang, bang. A series of explosions rang out and the courtyard of Dark Thunder Manor was thrown into the air. The ground quaked and Luo Wu and Xiang Zhichen were pressed to the ground, their bodies sinking deep into the ground. And there was a palm print of more than 100 feet on the ground. At this time, the 2 of them were kneeling on the ground. Their faces were covered with blood, and their eyes were full of trance. They had been hit by Ling Shiqi. Since when was the early stage of Gang spirit realm so terrifying? A large number of people who had knelt down long ago were so scared that they did not even dare to breathe. Especially when they saw Luo Wu and Xiang Zhiqing being subdued by the giant hand, there was only endless fear for Leng Shiqi in their hearts. It was the first time for them to see Leng Shiqi, but they all felt that he was more terrifying than Li Zhangtao. Leng Shiqi walked to the side of the big pit, looked down at the two of them, and said coldly, "Considering that you two are only accomplices, I will spare your lives for the time being. Next, complete the transfer of power as soon as possible and transfer all the Dark Thunder Guards in Ningyang County here." Puff! Xiang Zhiqing spat out a mouthful of blood, but he endured the injury in his body and reluctantly made a fist and palm salute, saying, I accept your order." After that, he stood up shakily and went to do his job. Luo Wu's cultivation was only at the early stage of Gang's spirit realm. Under the crushing of Leng Shiqi's purple pole thunder light hand, his body had been badly damaged. Although he still had a few breaths, he had no strength to move. It was even difficult for him to open his mouth and speak. Trash. Leng Shiqi spat out these two words softly. With a wave of his hand, the violent Gang Qi of thunder fell down and directly blew up Luo Wu's head. Xiang Zhiqing, who had just walked a few steps, suddenly stopped and then left at a faster speed. Leng Shiqi leisurely walked to the throne in the assembly hall, picked up the jade rui that was placed at the side, and lay back leisurely, waiting for the group of people to do their work. At this time, Feng Shamo said, "What do you think? Isn't it easy to deal with the problem in this way?" In fact, before coming here, Leng Shiqi intended to force them to submit the evidence. If Luo Wu and Xiang Zhiqing still did not surrender, he would take action. However, Feng Shamo said that he could completely suppress them with force, which would be the most efficient way. Sure enough, he killed Luo Wu in a thunderous manner, subdued Xiang Zhiqing and all the Dark Thunder Guards, and took over the Dark Thunder Mansion in a short time. It was surprisingly smooth. Of course, the premise of all this was that Leng Shiqi was strong enough. Chapter 597. Not long after, Xiang Zhiqing brought over the inspector's seal and all the accounts of the Dark Thunder Manor. Leng Shiqi was secretly shocked when he casually flipped through them. Li Zhangtao was really a local tyrant in Ningyang County. The resources that he had plundered over the years were simply too many to count. No wonder eunuch Gao had always coveted Ningyang County. This was simply a money tree. Leng Shiqi then took out Li Zhangtao's mustard seed bracelet. Ever since he killed Li Zhangtao, he had rushed to Dark Thunder Manor without stopping to rest. He did not have the time to check Li Zhangtao's own resources. He used his mental power to check and was immediately amazed. First of all, the space in Li Zhangtao's mustard bracelet was several times larger than Leng Shiqi's, and it was actually filled with all kinds of rare resources. There were 30 to 40,000 spiritual stones alone. These were not ordinary spiritual stones, but all of them were mid-grade spiritual stones. If converted, it was definitely equivalent to more than 4 million ordinary spiritual stones. A mere inspector's mustard bracelet had such a terrifying amount of spiritual stones. Moreover, Li Zhangtao definitely had his own private stash. Who knew how much he had embezzled over the years? Leng Shiqi once again sighed that this local tyrant was much better off than the deputy general manager of the Dark Thunder Manor. He then took out his own mustard bracelet. There were also many resources in it. Some of them were taken from the Dark Thunder Manor in Shantai County, and some were resources from the Wasteland tribe. There were also more than 1 million spiritual stones in it. Now, Leng Shiqi had more than 5 million spiritual stones in his wallet. This made him feel like a nouveau riche. Thinking back to the auction held by Celestial Treasure Firm some time ago, he had sold everything he had and cheated for 300,000 spiritual stones. Now that he suddenly had a huge amount of spiritual stones, he unconsciously straightened his back. Leng Shiqi then continued to check the other resources. The more he looked, the more shocked he became. There were all kinds of high-grade materials, elixirs, and spiritual tools. The worst was of the 5th grade. He even found a lot of 7th grade resources. Among them, the most precious were the 4 celestial elixirs. These were the elixirs that the unity of heaven and man experts needed the most. If the heavenly dipper pellet was priceless, then the celestial pellet was something that could only be found by chance. Those who could refine the celestial pellet were known as alchemy grandmasters. In the entire Starfall continent, the number of alchemy grandmasters could be counted on 2 hands. Therefore, in order to obtain a celestial pill, one's cultivation level, identity, resources, and even luck were all indispensable. However, Li Zhongtao was actually able to get 4 celestial pellets. It could be seen that he really had the power to call the wind and summon the rain in Ningyang County. In addition to the celestial pellet, there were also 2 7th-level precious weapons. One of them was the 10 Directions Fluttering Snow Spear. As for the other one, it was more special. It was actually a bow and arrow. The bow had a peculiar design. It was purple-pink in color and had a slender and elegant bow. Layers of lotus flower petals were engraved on it. It looked as if there was a spirit fox lying on top of it. It was warm and comfortable to hold in one's hand. At the bottom of the bow, there were a few small words engraved on it, Spirit Fox Lotus Bow. After receiving the bow and arrow, Lin Shiqi immediately felt that there seemed to be a faint consciousness floating within it. It seemed to be full of spirituality. However, he frowned because this bow and arrow seemed to be more suitable for women. In addition, he did not have any archery skills. Not only him, but it seemed that there were very few spirit cultivators on the continent who practiced archery. In his impression, the most famous sect on the continent for their archery skills was the Flying Leaf Valley of the 8 Wastelands Path of War. This top sect specialized in archery. Every disciple of the Flying Leaf Valley was known as a godly archer. At the peak of their glory, the Flying Leaf Valley was ranked among the 5 sections. Even if it was not as good as before, it was still a top sect. It was rumored that the Sky Origin stage cultivators of the Flying Leaf Valley could take a person's head from 1,000 miles away. It was a pity that Lin Shiqi did not have any archery skills that he could use right now. Therefore, this Spirit Fox Lotus Bow seemed a little useless. However, it was still a 7th-level artifact after all. Lin Shiqi naturally stored it in the system space. Moreover, even if he did not have any archery skills now, it did not mean that he would not have any in the future. In addition to these few most precious resources, the most coveted thing was the small pile of 7th-level materials. These were all necessary materials for refining 7th-level spirit tools or medicinal pills. No matter where they were placed, they would definitely be sought-after goods. Unfortunately, these things were temporarily useless to Lin Shiqi, so he could only keep them for now. What was worth mentioning was that after Lin Shiqi flipped through the pile, he actually found a letter. This letter was written by a weapon-refining Grand Master named Meng Jingyi of the Shinduan Mountain. Lin Shiqi carefully read it for a while. It turned out that a few years ago, Meng Jingyi was assassinated on his way back to the Divine Tempering Peak. It was Li Zhongtao who saved him. In order to repay his kindness, Meng Jingyi specially made a 7th-level artifact for Li Zhongtao, which was the 10 Directions Floating Snow Spear. Meng Jingyi also promised Li Zhongtao that he could do something for him. As long as Li Zhongtao needed it, he could take this letter directly to the Divine Tempering Peak. Lin Shiqi sneered in his heart. How could Li Zhongtao so easily save someone? Moreover, he often stayed in the Dark Thunder Manor to strategize. How could he have coincidentally encountered Meng Jingyi's assassination attempt? In Lin Shiqi's opinion, all of this could have been set up by Li Zhongtao on purpose. He wanted to lure Meng Jingyi, a weapon-refining Grand Master, into a trap and refine an artifact for him. However, Lin Shiqi could not confirm whether or not this was the case. But it did not matter. Now that this letter was in his hands, Meng Jingyi's favor was now his. It just so happened that Feng Shamo also said that his demon arrival battle saber had the potential to evolve into an artifact. Perhaps he could ask Meng Jingyi to refine the demon arrival battle saber to the 7th level. Looks like I need to make a trip to the Divine Tempering Peak. He secretly made up his mind. Then, he continued to look through the resources. What surprised him was that Li Zhangtao's resources included many 4th and 5th level cultivation methods and spiritual techniques. There were dozens of them altogether. Although Lin Shiqi mainly used 6th level spiritual techniques in battle, it was not bad to have so many spiritual techniques in one go. Not only did it make him more agile in battle, but it also increased the possibility of him fusing spiritual techniques. Unfortunately, Lin Shiqi did not find any 6th level spiritual techniques. Perhaps Li Zhangtao thought that 6th level cultivation methods and spiritual techniques were too precious to carry around, so he left them in the treasury. Thinking of the treasury, Lin Shiqi's eyes lit up. He immediately sent someone to call for Xiang Zhicheng. Xiang Zhicheng still dragged his heavily injured body in. He bowed and said, "Lord Lu, what orders do you have for me?" Lin Shiqi did not hesitate. He directly said, "Go and open the treasury." However, Xiang Zhicheng looked troubled. "Lord Lu, the treasury has been set up with layers of formations. Only Lord Li can open it. If you forcefully break the formations, the entire treasury will turn to ashes." Lin Shiqi immediately frowned. He had not thought of this. He could only report this to Eunuch Gao. While he sent people to take over Dark Thunder Manor in Ningyang County, he also needed a few formation masters. Chapter 598. Since the treasury could not be opened, Lin Shiqi was a little disappointed. Li Zhangtao's mustard seed bracelet contains such a huge amount of resources, so there must be even more resources in the treasury. He waved his hand and motioned for Xiang Zhicheng to leave. He first used the sound transmission array here to report the information to Eunuch Gao, then found a secret room and sat down cross-legged. Lin Shiqi was still sorting out his various resources. He divided all the resources into 2 categories. The first category was those that he could use, so these took up the majority. There was also a small portion of resources that he definitely could not use. He directly sold all these resources to the system, and his system coins instantly soared to more than 40,000. Lin Shiqi had never had so many system coins since he got the system. Perhaps all the system coins he had before did not even add up to more than 40,000. This made him realize the importance of strength and identity. Since he had more than 40,000 system coins, of course, he had to convert these system coins into strength. He made a simple plan and planned to do 10 advanced lottery draws and 10 unlimited lottery draws. The advanced lottery draws could only draw level 5 or level 6 resources. Although Lin Shiqi did not lack them now, the system would draw things from other worlds, so he was somewhat looking forward to it. The unlimited lottery draws and the advanced lottery draws both cost 1,000 system coins, but the upper limit of the unlimited lottery draws was very high. Anyway, he was rich now, so he could take the risk. As for the remaining 20,000 system coins, Lin Shiqi planned to cultivate the Gu King and the 4-legged metal-swallowing beast first, and then save some system coins for later use. After making the plan, Lin Shiqi immediately opened the lottery draw page. In order to calm himself down, he first selected the advanced lottery draw option and pressed it 10 times in a row. Then, a pair of strange things appeared in front of him, and at the same time, a system notification came. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the advanced prize, immunity to poison. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the advanced prize, advanced challenge card. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the advanced prize, clavicle hook. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the advanced prize, level 6 spiritual technique, dual flying fire. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the advanced prize, drunken dream. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a high-grade reward, 5th order quality and 60 years of power. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the high-grade prize, Phoenix Flying Parasol Tree. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the advanced prize, Ethereal Chessboard. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the advanced prize, Xiaoyun Poison Needle. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a high-grade reward, rank 5 cultivation method wild sand skill. Lin Shiqi began to check the prizes one by one. First of all, poison immunity was a talent that made him immune to poison. However, in Lin Shiqi's eyes, it was a little useless because his physical strength was very strong. Moreover, he also had some goo worms in his body, so ordinary poisons were useless against him. Then, he picked up a light purple card in front of him. This was the advanced challenge card. The spirit energy in his body circulated gently, and the challenge card immediately turned into a line of words: Challenge mission, kill a spirit cultivator of the Unity of Heaven realm. Reward, 1 top-level lucky draw. Seeing this challenge mission, Lin Shiqi almost swore. If he had gotten this challenge card a few days earlier, he could have completed it directly. Now he had to kill a master of the Unity of Heaven realm. Where could he kill him? One had to know that the reason why Lin Shiqi could kill Li Zhangtao was due to many factors. First of all, Li Zhangtao was at the bottom of the Unity of Heaven realm. Even if he had the 10 directions fluttering snow spear, he could not exert the real strength of the Unity of Heaven realm. Secondly, Li Zhangtao broke the gate under the star mineral vein and fought with the statue for a while, which consumed a lot of spirit energy. In this case, the sneak attack by Lin Shiqi and the other 6 gang spirit realm experts was still resolved. Later, all of them used up their trump cards to kill him. It could be seen that the Unity of Heaven realm was really terrifying. Now he had got a challenge card and had to kill a master of the Unity of Heaven realm, which gave Lin Shiqi a headache. Fortunately, there was no time limit for this challenge mission. He could do it when he was stronger. Lin Shiqi continued to look at the prizes and picked up a strange-shaped weapon from the ground, the clavicle hook. The front of the clavicle hook was an extremely curved hook with a very sharp tip, and there were strange thin grooves on it. There was a long chain behind it, which made him feel like a messenger of hell when he held it in his hand. The grade of this item wasn't low, it was at least level 6, but Lin Shiqi couldn't use it. Generally speaking, the more unpopular the weapon was, the more miraculous it was. But at the same time, it needed a matching cultivation method and spiritual skill to use it freely. Therefore, he could only keep it for now. Putting away the clavicle hook, Lin Shiqi looked at the next prize, the 6th level spiritual skill, double flying fire. Lin Shiqi had no impression of this spiritual skill and did not know which world it came from. But what made his eyes light up was that it was an archery spiritual skill. This was an extremely difficult archery technique, which required 2 arrows to be shot at the same time. In fact, there were many people who could do this, and even shoot more arrows at the same time. But don't forget, this was a 6th level spiritual skill, not a casual archery skill. Therefore, the person who cultivated this spiritual skill had to have extremely strong control. Lin Shiqi, on the other hand, was able to ignore this restriction. He was pleasantly surprised as he directly cultivated the dual flying fire to the great perfection. He then took out the spirit fox lotus bow. He wondered how terrifying the power of a 7th rank bow and arrow, coupled with the dual flying fire at the great perfection, would be if he added the pure gold earth dragon flame. He could not wait to find someone to shoot at. Of course, he stopped thinking about this and continued to look at the prizes. He picked up a large jar of wine next to him, and the words, "Drunken Dream," were written on it. So Drunken Dream was a jar of wine. How could a jar of wine be worthy of a high-grade prize? Lin Shiqi held a skeptical attitude as he gently lifted a corner of the wine jar. Immediately after, an indescribable wine fragrance assaulted his face. He had only inhaled a trace of it, but he instantly felt his entire body go soft and light. Lin Shiqi's primordial spirit trembled, and a pure spiritual force surged out, waking him up in an instant. At the same time, it also surprised him. He only smelled it once, and it made him feel drunk. If someone really drank it, wouldn't they be drunk to death? Although Drunken Dream was not a precious resource and could not increase one's combat strength, if he met someone who liked wine, then the value of Drunken Dream would be even more precious than a 7th level treasure weapon. Lin Shiqi quickly covered the wine jar. He could not use this thing for the time being, but it did not mean that he could not use it in the future. Who knows, it might have other uses. He then stretched out his hand and attracted a small ball of spiritual energy floating in the air. This was 60 years of power. However, according to the prompt of the system, this was only equivalent to 60 years of power of a spirit cultivator who practiced a 5th-level cultivation method. Leng Shiqi did not know how much power this ball of spiritual energy contained. Since it was so, he would find out after giving it a try. He opened his mouth and swallowed this ball of spiritual energy, and then a majestic and pure spiritual force sank into his star sea. At the same time, a 4th-level chaotic star and 7 3rd-level stars were floating in his spiritual star sea. This was the result of his 2-month closed-door training. But at this moment, starlight suddenly flashed, and a 3rd-level star was formed at a speed visible to the naked eye. And 3 stars were condensed in succession. The spiritual star sea suddenly trembled slightly, and 10 3rd-level stars attracted each other and merged into the second 4th-level chaotic star. Leng Shiqi's cultivation also broke through to the 2nd level of Gang's spirit realm in an instant. At this moment, the spirit chi finally gradually weakened. However, even so, it still helped Leng Shiqi condense another 4 rank 3 stars. Leng Shiqi roughly calculated that 60 years of power of the 5th-level cultivation method was equivalent to condensing 7 3rd-level stars. It could be seen that the 5th-level cultivation method was really different from the supreme cultivation method of the heavenly star technique. It was no wonder that many people could set off a bloody storm for a high-level cultivation method. After breaking through to the Gang spirit realm, Leng Shiqi also found that his cultivation speed was extremely slow. Even if he took the Heaven Gang elixir, refined the soul stone, and used the yin and yang spirit gathering formation, his progress was still as slow as a turtle's. It was not that his aptitude was poor, nor that he had too few resources. It was precisely because he practiced the supreme cultivation method of the heavenly star technique. If he wanted to break through a small realm, the amount of spiritual force he needed to absorb and the effort he put in was also doubled. As for the remaining 4 prizes, except for the Shoyun flying needle, which was a good hidden weapon, the others were very ordinary and did not need to be mentioned. After sorting out all the prizes, Leng Shiqi clicked on the infinite lottery page again. 10 times. Chapter 599. With a flash of light, Leng Shiqi's prize was quickly drawn. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the beginner prize, Beginner Strengthening Talisman. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the beginner prize, Heavy Strike. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the advanced prize, Level 5 Spiritual Technique, Drunken 8 Immortal Staff Technique. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the intermediate prize, Basic Alchemy. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the beginner prize, Fine Dagger. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the beginner prize, Fragrant Handkerchief. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the advanced prize, Granite Shield. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the intermediate prize, Skeleton Summon. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the intermediate prize, Level 4 Spiritual Weapon, Realgar Dual Blades. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the advanced prize, Level 6 Spiritual Technique, Sword Fury Flower. Seeing the results of the 10 infinite draws, Leng Shiqi only had one word left in his mind, and that was, a loss. A huge loss. Apart from the 3 high-grade prizes, the rest of the prizes were all repulsive and unsightly. It could be said that he had lost a total of 7,000 system coins. Even though he was rich now, losing 7,000 system coins still made his heart ache. Moreover, among the 3 advanced prizes, there was a Level 5 Spiritual Technique, Drunken 8 Immortal Staff Technique. Leng Shiqi had a vague impression of it. It seemed to be one of Shaolin's 72 ultimate techniques, just like the complete divine light. However, the Drunken 8 Immortal Staff Technique was very unpopular. In order to fully utilize the power of the staff technique, one had to be half drunk and half awake. However, everyone knew that monks did not drink alcohol, so this spiritual technique was very unpopular. However, he thought of the drunken dream that he had just drawn. If he drank a little wine and used the drunken eight immortals staff technique, it might have some effect. It was a pity that this spiritual technique was only level 5. For the current Ling Shiqi, it was still a little low. The other level 6 spiritual skill, Sword Fury Wild Flowers, was to Ling Shiqi's liking. This was a skill that came from a game world. When this spiritual skill was cultivated to perfection, the surging sword chi was like a blooming flower, layer upon layer. Not only was its power astonishing, but it was also very compatible with the mesmerizing chaotic flowers. Chaotic Blossom's gradually dazzling eyes was Ling Shiqi's first ultimate move. As his strength continued to increase, he also continued to strengthen this move. For example, he had fused the Star Extinction Sword Chi into it some time ago. He had originally planned to fuse the Five Gods illusion technique, but he had yet to succeed. Now that he had the addition of the Sword Fury Wild Flower, he believed that if he could integrate all of these into it, the power of the chaotic flower's mesmerizing eyes would definitely increase explosively. As for the last advanced prize, Granite Shield, it was also from a game world. It was a passive skill of the Lava Behemoth. Ling Shiqi had also drawn a passive skill, which was Hell's Curse. So far, the Curse of Hell had increased his mental strength and physical strength by a lot, and he guessed that the souls in the Mansion of the Dead might have something to do with this passive skill. Therefore, even though it was a passive skill, it still had a miraculous effect. This passive skill could provide Ling Shiqi with a layer of shield. As for the thickness of the shield, it was related to his physical strength. The higher his physical strength, the stronger the shield. Ling Shiqi immediately learned this skill. Because it was a passive skill, there were no levels. He also knew the specific value of this skill. The granite shield could provide him with a close-fitting armor that was equivalent to 50% of his physical defense. This meant that when Ling Shiqi received damage, he had to first shatter the granite shield before he could truly damage his body. This value was somewhat different from the game. Ling Shiqi remembered that it increased health, but it was indeed difficult to calculate health in this world. Ling Shiqi then noticed that there was indeed a very thin layer of armor on the surface of his body. It was transparent, and it looked no different from how he usually looked. Ling Shiqi clenched his fists and found that the granite shield did not affect his movements. He was very satisfied. This was equivalent to adding a layer of protection. If he was ambushed by others, this granite shield would play a very important role. After looking at all the prizes, if Ling Shiqi had to give a comment, it would be to protect his property and stay away from the lucky draw. He had spent a total of 20,000 system coins, but the result was that the prizes he received were far from worth the price. Even if it was 10 advanced lucky draws, half of them were useless. In total, he had basically lost half of his extravagant 20 consecutive draws this time. Looking at the remaining 20,000 system coins, Ling Shiqi secretly made up his mind. Before a new lucky draw option appeared, he would never draw again. Instead of using the system coins to gamble on luck, it was better to do something more practical, such as raising a pet. He immediately opened the pet space and checked that the Gu King's advancement had reached 88%. After a rough calculation, it would be successful in about half a month. However, now that Ling Shiqi had money, he wanted to try the effect of the advancement pill. He spent 2,000 system coins from the pet store to buy an intermediate advancement pill and gave it to the Gu King. The Gu King's body began to flicker with a faint 5-colored light, and its body slowly floated up. If one looked carefully, one would find that a pair of small wings had grown out of its back. After a few breaths, the 5-colored light suddenly flashed, and the Gu King flew out of the pet space. It flew around Ling Shiqi a few times and finally fell on his hand. The Gu King was now a rank 5 monster. It was comparable to a master of Gang's spirit realm. However, the Gu King was not a combat monster. It did not have strong combat power, but more of a support ability. Ling Shiqi used the system to check the Gu King's information and found that in addition to the armor form, soul devouring, and flying abilities, there were 2 more abilities. One was poison curse. This Goo King was created by Princess Carol by refining countless goo worms. It was very poisonous to begin with, and it was a mixture of many different kinds of toxins. However, Leng Shiqi used the Goo King more as an armor form in the past, so he had hardly used it in this aspect. After the armor form, Leng Shiqi could use the poison curse. The usage of the poison curse was very flexible. It could be planted in a person's body to make them suffer, or it could release poisonous fog and clouds to restrict the enemy. It was a good ability. But to say that he was strong, he wasn't that strong. Because Leng Shiqi's opponents were basically masters of Gang's spirit realm. With the protection of Gang's spirit, the effect of poison was reduced a lot. The other ability was that it had a strong concealment skill. If Leng Shiqi did not use the Byakugan, he would not be able to find the Goo King's trace. With this ability, and the Goo King's intelligence, it would be very convenient for him to gather information in the future. Of course, Leng Shiqi was more concerned about the increase in strength and various strange abilities brought by the Goo King's armor form. Then he bought a few more pet experience pills and fed them to the Goo King. Then he put it back into the pet space and summoned the four-legged gold-swallowing beast. Chapter 600. A pink and tender little pig jumped into Leng Shiqi's arms, its little head bobbing up and down a few times. Leng Shiqi opened its mouth and stuffed a few beginner pet experience pills into its mouth. The four-legged metal-swallowing beast was stunned for a moment, then its whole body flashed and its body became fatter. It had evolved into a rank 2 monster. Leng Shiqi quickly checked the four-legged metal-swallowing beast's information. However, other than the range of detection being a little larger, there were no new abilities. Leng Shiqi fell into silence. It seemed that the four-legged metal-swallowing beast had no other abilities other than treasure hunting. Treasure hunting was good, but the problem was that Leng Shiqi had no time to do it. If he was a free individual cultivator, of course, he could take his time and explore the world while looking for treasures. How wonderful would that be? However, he was in a high position now. Of course, there were many benefits, but he did not have much freedom. Leng Shiqi did not give up on the four-legged metal-swallowing beast. He bought some beginner strengthening pills from the pet store and planned to strengthen it to see if it could be saved. In the pet strengthening interface, the attributes that could be strengthened were strength, vitality, intelligence, and agility. The beginner strengthening pill could only strengthen one of them slightly. Leng Shiqi looked at the four-legged metal-swallowing beast's silly and cute appearance. It was impossible to rely on it to fight. He planned to increase the four-legged metal-swallowing beast's intelligence first, but he did not know whether this intelligence corresponded to spirit power or intelligence. Then, he used all 5 beginner strengthening pills on intelligence. He picked up the four-legged metal-swallowing beast and looked at it twice, but he did not find any changes. There were only 2 reasons for this situation. Either the four-legged metal-swallowing beast's intelligence was very high, so the 5 beginner strengthening pills did not have much effect. Or, its intelligence was too low. Leng Shiqi frowned. He realized that if he did not spend more system coins on the four-legged metal-swallowing beast, he could not expect anything from it. Then, he simply bought a lot of experience pills, strengthening pills, and advance pills from the pet store. It cost him more than 10,000 system coins. Leng Shiqi first fed the four-legged metal-swallowing beast a large amount of experience pills and strengthening pills. When it was about to evolve, he fed it advancement pills. The four-legged metal-swallowing beast was also evolving at an incredible speed. After a short while, the four-legged metal-swallowing beast had already become a rank 4 monster. The rank 4 four-legged metal devourer beast's body did not grow much bigger. Its ability was still limited to finding treasures. Its range had increased to tens of miles, and it could sense rank 4 treasures. Leng Shiqi should have been disappointed, but after the four-legged metal-swallowing beast broke through to Tier 4, an extremely weak and timid voice entered Leng Shiqi's mind. Moss. Master. Leng Shiqi picked up the four-legged metal-swallowing beast and looked at it in surprise. You've gained intelligence. Why yes, master. This time, the four-legged metal-swallowing beast's voice was much smoother. It sounded like a baby who had just learned how to speak. The astonishment in Ling Shiqi's eyes intensified. This little thing could actually understand what he was saying. However, the four-legged metal-swallowing beast was only rank 4. One had to know that the king of venomous worms was already rank 5, but it only had a little bit of intelligence. It was impossible for it to communicate through spiritual power. Could this be the result of intelligence strengthening? Ling Shiqi thought of a possibility. He immediately summoned the king of venomous worms and fed it a large number of strengthening pills, all of which were added to intelligence. Sure enough, just as the king of venomous worms swallowed a few thousand system coins, a slightly cold boy's voice appeared. Master. Ling Shiqi nodded with a surprised expression. Intelligence strengthening could indeed unlock the pet's intelligence. Although this did not directly increase the pet's combat power, the significance was great. For example, he could have the king of venomous worms help him track and gather some information, and then report back to him. After all, his Byakugan could only see the aura of spiritual power, but could not hear anything. Another example was if the four-legged metal-swallowing beast discovered any treasure. He could also directly and accurately report it, so as to avoid embarrassing situations like when he used the treasure-seeking compass in the demonic Miasma Mountains. In order to help the king of venomous worms and the four-legged metal-swallowing beast evolve and unlock their intelligence, Ling Shiqi spent nearly 10,000 system coins. However, he felt that it was worth it this time. Ling Shiqi briefly communicated with them for a while before putting them back into the pet space. He saw that he still had about 13,000 system coins, so he opened the system shop to take a look. The system shop was now filled with a dazzling array of goods, and it could be refreshed several times. Ling Shiqi's goal was very clear. What he wanted the most now was not cultivation methods and spiritual skills. This was because he did not lack cultivation methods and spiritual skills for the time being, and it would take him a long time to digest them. What he lacked the most now was trump cards. It was not a spiritual skill like the Void of the Floating Dragon, but a life-saving trump card like the one Li Zhangtao used before he died that did not consume any spiritual power. Chapter 601. Shindwan Peak could be said to be the place that all the refiners in the world yearned for the most. It could also be said that all the outstanding refiners basically came from Shindwan Peak. Below Shindwan Peak, there were several unusually lively towns. Almost all of them came to ask the disciples of Shindwan Peak to refine for them. However, refining was not something that could be done overnight. Even if it was a low-level spiritual weapon, it would take a long time. Therefore, there were many people gathered at the foot of Shindwan Peak all year round. It had always been very lively. Ling Shiqi, who had changed his body shape and appearance, came to the foot of Shindwan Peak. Looking at the densely packed figures, he had a headache. He did not have time to wait here. Then, he stirred up his spiritual power, and a vigorous spiritual power aura suddenly spread out. All the spirit cultivators below the 4 realms of celestial being were shaken to the ground. Who is it? How dare you? The people who were flipped over immediately started cursing. Shoo, that's a spirit astral realm expert. Even a spirit astral realm expert has to line up in person. Looking around, the people lining up here were basically low-level spirit cultivators. Some of them were here to refine spiritual weapons for themselves, but many of them were here to do some small business for others. Ling Shiqi's movement was not small. Immediately, 2 disciples of Shindwan Peak came over with unfriendly expressions. One of them cupped his hands and said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, "Your Excellency's cultivation is profound, and it seems that your identity is extraordinary. May I know what business you have in Shindwan Peak?" Ling Shiqi took out the envelope and said, "I have no ill intentions. Please give this letter to Master Meng Jingyi of your sect." The disciple looked at the signature on the envelope. It was Meng Jingyi himself. He said, "Your Excellency, please wait for a moment. I will go and report." Soon, in less than half an hour, the person hurried over and said, "Elder Meng invites you up." His attitude changed very quickly, and the way he addressed him directly became, "Your Excellency." Lin Shiqi thought that the letter was indeed true. The two of them went up the mountain together. Along the way, Lin Shiqi heard the clanging of iron. Fortunately, the higher they went, the fewer such sounds. This was because high-level weapon refiners had even more advanced refining methods, and they were no longer just simply forging iron. On the way, he met some disciples of Shinduan Peak. They were not surprised to see Lin Shiqi, a master of Gang's spirit realm. They all seemed to be used to it. After all, countless people came to Xinjian Peak to refine weapons. Those who could be led here were all big shots. Not to mention Lin Shiqi, who was in the Gang spirit realm, they had seen many masters in the oneness of heaven and men realm and even masters in the Tianyuan realm. Meng Jingyi was one of the few master refiners of the Shinduan Peak. He was second only to great grandmasters. His residence was on a separate mountain. The disciples stopped in front of a huge courtyard and cupped his hands to Lin Shiqi. "Esteemed guest, Elder Meng is inside. I can only escort you here." Lin Shiqi nodded. He stepped into the courtyard and immediately felt a wave of heat. This level of heat had no effect on him, but he was sure that if a spirit aperture realm cultivator walked in, they would have to activate their spirit armor to stand here safely. There were some broken weapons and materials everywhere in the courtyard. It looked a bit messy. In the center of the courtyard, there was a huge furnace. The heat wave was coming from this furnace. On the other side of the furnace sat a somewhat elegant middle-aged man. His hair was slightly messy. He waved his hand and several materials were raised. Then, a terrifying flame gushed out of the furnace and melted all the materials in an instant. This person was the master refiner of Shinduan Peak, Meng Jingyi. Meng Jingyi's image was different from Lin Shiqi's impression of a weapon refiner. He thought that Meng Jingyi should be a muscular man. It was Lin Shiqi's first time seeing a weapon refiner. He didn't say anything to disturb him and watched with interest for a while. He also noticed that Meng Jingyi was also a spirit astral realm expert. Meng Jingyi's spirit astral realm had a trace of aura similar to the pure gold earth dragon flame. It seemed that it was also supported by some kind of heavenly strange flame. It seemed that Shinduan Peak also had heavenly strange flames. After half an hour, Meng Jingyi had a short sword embryo in his hand. He tidied it up and threw an unknown stone to Lin Shiqi. "Sit." Lin Shiqi didn't hesitate and sat down. Meng Jingyi took out the letter and said, "I don't like Li Zhangtao, but I have to repay the favor I owe him. Tell me, what do you want?" Lin Shiqi took out the Demon Advent War Blade and said, "Elder Meng, do you think this blade has the possibility of evolving into a treasure weapon?" "Oh." Meng Jingyi took the Demon Advent War Blade with a surprised look on his face. He turned the Demon Advent War Blade over and over for a long time. Finally, he touched the faint bloodstain on it and said in a low voice, "This is a murderous weapon. It is full of spirituality and has the potential to evolve into a treasure weapon. It's just that the materials used to forge it were not good enough. As long as you can give me a few level 7 or level 8 materials, preferably materials with the property of this blade, I have a 70% chance of evolving it." Hearing this, Lin Shiqi was stunned. Meng Jingyi said level 7 or level 8 materials as if they were cabbages on the roadside. If it had been half a month ago, Lin Shiqi would not have been able to take out even a single level 7 material. However, things were different now. Not to mention that Li Zhangtao's mustard seed bracelet contained level 7 materials, what gave him more confidence was the secret treasure left behind by the Star Tribe. As a matter of fact, there were countless materials for refining weapons in the secret palace. Dense piles of refining materials filled the entire hall. Among them, the lowest grade was at the 5th level, and the most numerous were at the 6th level. 7th level materials were the norm, and 8th level materials were not rare either. There were even 9th level materials. When Leng Shiqi opened the palace door, he was stunned for a long time before he came to his senses. After that, he filled more than a dozen mustard seed bracelets to the brim. Even the system space was almost full before he moved all the materials away. Leng Shiqi took a portion of these materials. Although it was only a portion, it was still a huge amount. However, he didn't sell these materials to the system. This was because he was preparing to establish his own force. Refining materials were indispensable. Leng Shiqi took out 3 level 7 materials and 1 level 8 material from the pile and handed them to Meng Jingyi. Meng Jingyi murmured, Soul-crying crystal, demon's soul, and blood bamboo are all very good level 7 materials. This is, when he saw the last piece of stone, which was the size of a fist and looked dark, but in fact, there were countless stars in the dark, he couldn't help but be stunned. Suddenly, Meng Jingyi's eyes gradually widened. Finally, he exclaimed, is this the extreme star magic jade that has been extinct since ancient times? Chapter 602. The extreme star demonic jade was able to make Meng Jingyi, the Divine Forge Mountain's master artificer, lose his composure. It was obvious that this item was extraordinary. This also surprised Leng Shiqi a little. The extreme star demonic jade was something he had taken out from the Star Tribe's secret vault. He had only taken it out because it seemed to contain a very pure demonic aura. He had never thought that this item would be so precious. He could only say, yes, this is it. I wonder if these materials are enough to upgrade the Devil's Arrival battle blade. Enough, definitely enough. Meng Jingyi's eyes flashed with a golden light as he stared at the extreme star demon jade. Your Excellency's status is absolutely extraordinary. You can even find such an ancient treasure. If I use the extreme star demon jade, then I have a 90% chance of success. 90%. Leng Shiqi raised his eyebrows. Although he didn't know how to forge artifacts, he still knew a little about it. Generally speaking, even a master artificer like Meng Jingyi wouldn't succeed every time he forged a 6th level spirit artifact. As for 7th level artifacts, his success rate was definitely less than 50%. Although Leng Shiqi wasn't directly forging artifacts but upgrading them, a 90% chance of success was still very shocking. This was obviously a good thing for Leng Shiqi. He immediately cupped his fists and said, then I'll have to trouble Elder Meng. How long will it take to upgrade the Devil's Arrival battle blade? Eunuch Gao had already received the news and should have already sent someone to take over the Dark Thunder Manor in Tranquil Sun County. It would take about half a month, so he couldn't stay here for too long. Meng Jingyi still held the extreme star demonic jade and said excitedly, 10 days, no, it will be completed within 10 days. Hearing this, Leng Shiqi was delighted and said, good, then I'll wait outside for Elder Meng's good news. Go. Meng Jingyi waved his hand casually, his attention focused on the extreme star demonic jade. Leng Shiqi walked out of the courtyard and sat down cross-legged. He began to regulate his breathing and split a portion of his divine sense to deduce spirit techniques in his spiritual sea. Actually, there were a few resting areas on Shinduan Peak that were specially prepared for VIPs. After all, refining was a delicate job that required a lot of time, so the headquarters had people waiting outside. However, Leng Shiqi still guarded the door because he had to stop some people. Although the news of Li Zhangtao's death had been blocked by him, he had thrown Li Zhangtao's head out in the open. Many people had seen this scene, so it was inevitable that the news would spread. Leng Shiqi didn't care if anyone else heard about it, but he couldn't let Meng Jingyi know. Once Meng Jingyi knew that Li Zhangtao was dead, the favor in the letter would naturally not count. Then, Leng Shiqi would have made a wasted trip. Seeing that his Devil's Arrival battle saber was already on the path to becoming a cosmic artifact, he could not afford to fail at the final step. Therefore, he planned to stop anyone who wanted to get close to the courtyard and Meng Jingyi. The next 3 days were quite peaceful. Only 2 disciples came to deliver messages, but they were both scared away by Leng Shiqi. However, on the 4th day, trouble came. On this day, Leng Shiqi saw a disciple of Xinduan Peak coming over with an old man. Judging from the disciple's respectful manner, it was obvious that the person behind them was not simple. When he got closer, he saw that the old man had white hair and a ruddy complexion. He was in high spirits and his cultivation was at the late stage of Gang's spirit realm. To Leng Shiqi's surprise, judging from the old man's clothes, he was actually from the Thousand Illusion Sword sect. He was quite familiar with the Thousand Illusion Sword sect. In particular, he had encountered 3 masters of the Thousand Illusion Sword sect when he tried to assassinate Lei Haoqing some time ago, which meant that the Thousand Illusion Sword sect had been roped in by Lei Haoqing. In Leng Shiqi's view, the Thousand Illusion Sword sect had completely gone astray. They valued the identity of a top sect too much. As far as he knew, there was only one expert of Tianyuan realm left in the Thousand Illusion Sword sect, and he seemed to be dying soon. It was normal for a sect to rise and fall. In fact, the more difficult the situation was, the more they should focus on cultivating young disciples. As long as they had a solid foundation, even if they temporarily fell out of the world's sect list and lost the title of a top sect, they would have a chance to regain it in the future. However, the Thousand Illusionary Sword sect had actually killed off a rare genius like Ozu for the sake of the Divine Illusion Palace's legacy cultivation method, causing him to fall into a situation where he was unable to catch up. This was simply picking up sesame seeds and losing watermelons. No, the result was that they had not picked up the sesame seed and lost the watermelon. What Leng Shiqi despised even more was that the Thousand Illusion Sword sect actually dared to rely on Lei Haoqing and get involved in the fight for the throne among the princes. The Thousand Illusion Sword sect thought that by choosing a prince to support him to the throne, they would be able to enjoy endless status and resources in the future. Naturally, they would be able to solve their current predicament. However, they did not know that because they had sided with Lei Haoqing had completely lost the right to fight for the throne. Leng Shiqi was a member of the Dark Thunder Guards. Although he had never seen Lei Qingjun, he knew very well that Lei Qingjun wanted to get rid of these top sects that could threaten the stability of the dynasty at any time. The warning given to the Mountain Sea sect in Donglin County was a signal. It was a pity that Lei Haoqing did not see it. He seemed to have great momentum now, but he did not know that he had personally cut off the possibility of ascending to the throne. This also meant that not only would the Thousand Illusion Sword sect not get what they wanted, but they would also attract Lei Qingjun's attention. If things went wrong, Lei Qingjun might make a move on this declining top sect. Therefore, when Leng Shiqi saw the people from the Thousand Illusion Sword sect, his heart flashed with a trace of sympathy. Seeing that they were approaching, Leng Shiqi stretched out his hand to block their path. Elder Meng is refining tools. It is inconvenient to disturb him. You are? The Xinduan Peak disciple looked at Leng Shiqi in confusion. Leng Shiqi explained, my surname is Lu. Elder Meng is refining a weapon for me. The Xinduan Peak disciple cupped his fists and said, so you are a guest. However, the 2 behind me are also honored guests. Moreover, refining tools is not a continuous process, so it doesn't matter. As long as you give the materials to Elder Meng and tell him the style and characteristics of the weapon you want, it will be fine. You have no conflict. However, Leng Shiqi still shook his head. He was sure that the people from the Thousand Illusion Sword sect must have known about Li Zhangtao's death. It was normal for top sects like them to inquire about the news when they came to a place. Although they would most likely not mention this to Meng Jingyi, just in case, Leng Shiqi still could not let them in. The Xinduan Peak disciple and the 2 people from the Thousand Illusion Sword sect frowned at the same time. They were actually stopped by an outsider. What was going on? The old man walked up and said, young Master Lu, right? This old man is Elder Yen Mu of the Thousand Illusion Sword sect. Everyone is here to ask Master Meng to refine a weapon. Why make things difficult for each other? Leng Shiqi was expressionless. First come, first served. Does Elder Yen not understand such a simple principle? His attitude made Yen Mu's face sink. Their Thousand Illusion Sword sect had recently befriended Lei Haoqing and obtained many resources. This time, he was ordered to come here to refine a level 7 spirit sword. He finally came up the mountain, but he did not expect to be stopped by an outsider. Moreover, his attitude was so cold. This made him angry. The Shinduan Peak disciple also said, "Young Master Lu, it is not appropriate for you to be so unyielding in my God-broken mountain." His words had a hint of threat. Leng Shiqi said even more forcefully, "Elder Meng personally said that no one is allowed to enter before the refinement is completed. If you rashly barge in and cause the refinement to fail, how much responsibility do you have?" Chapter 603. Hearing Leng Shiqi's words, Yan Mu and Li Shiqi both hesitated for a moment. If Meng Jingyi had really said that, it would be fine, but who could guarantee that Leng Shiqi didn't say it casually? But it was not appropriate for them to break in like this. In fact, Leng Shiqi also used this to scare away the people in front of him. Seeing Yan Mu hesitate, he continued, "To be honest, Master Meng also said that my weapon would be finished in a few days. You two just need to wait for a few more days." "What's wrong with that?" Yan Mu didn't care if it was a normal day, but now he was in urgent need of this 7th level spiritual sword, because they had to win the game on behalf of Lei Haoqing in a grand meeting soon. And Leng Shiqi's attitude really annoyed him. Yan Mu said in a deep voice, "Child Lu, I just need to go in and say a few words. How long can it take? Besides, this is Shinduan Peak. Do you want to be the host here?" At the end of his words, Yan Mu condensed the sword gang around him, but the amazing sword intent had already shrouded Leng Shiqi. Leng Shiqi didn't say a word. His spiritual power moved, and a gust of wind suddenly appeared around him. Light gray strange winds suddenly appeared, making the air whistling. The disciple of Shinduan Peak was only at the spirit transformation realm. He was so scared that his face turned pale. He didn't expect that Leng Shiqi and Li Shiqi would start a fight. He wanted to mediate, but under the pressure of 2 masters of Gang's spirit realm, he couldn't even open his mouth. He could only run away like a wisp of smoke to call for reinforcements. Yan Mu's eyes narrowed. This child Lu was at the 2nd level of Gang's spirit realm at such a young age. Who on earth was he? So Yan Mu didn't directly attack, but asked, "May I ask who your master is? If you want to fight, then fight. If not, then retreat." "Why are you so long-winded?" Leng Shiqi didn't give Yan Mu a good face. This made Yan Mu even more unbearable. "No matter who you are so arrogant. As an elder, I should teach you a lesson." Before he could finish his sentence, he used his fingers as a sword. Dazzling sword light illuminated the mountaintop, and a terrifying sword force slashed down. Leng Shiqi clasped his hands together, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth trembled. Endless wind's spiritual energy madly gathered, and suddenly, the wind and clouds changed, and a storm visible to the naked eye swept through the world. The storm also contained a strange power of nirvanic extermination, and it instantly shattered Yan Mu's sword aura. This was the rank 6 spiritual skill that came with the Nirvana Remnant Wind Scroll, whirlwind dispersing clouds. Leng Shiqi used the wind power of the wind and thunder godly luck stone to condense the Nirvana Remnant Wind. This kind of spiritual highland contained a trace of the power of Nirvana and could eliminate most of the spiritual highland. But Yan Mu was shocked. Child Lu was a spiritual practitioner in Gang's spirit realm, and he had mastered such a strange wind gang. Seeing the storm sweeping towards him, Yan Mu struck out with his sword. As a master of the Thousand Illusion Sword sect, he was good at swordsmanship. But Yan Mu felt a little disgraced that he was forced to use his sword to deal with a man in the early stage of Gang's spirit realm. When the spiritual sword was unsheathed, Yan Mu's momentum suddenly changed, and he became as sharp as an arrow. The sword river turned back and tore the storm apart, and the sword light mixed with some golden streamers attacked Leng Shiqi. Leng Shiqi instantly saw that the golden sword light was some kind of illusion, which had no effect on him. He moved his spirit, and the majestic spiritual force directly destroyed the golden sword light. He changed the spiritual seal in his hand, and the flames around him were monstrous. The golden dragon flame came out and condensed into two huge flaming lions. This was the flame transformation skill that Senior Huang was best at. The wind helped the fire, and the flaming lions grew with the wind, and their bodies expanded to 200 or 300 feet. The raging dragon flame made the whole mountain hot, and even the air began to distort slightly. Yan Mu's expression became more dignified. The golden dragon flame threatened him more than the Nirvana remnant wind. He secretly exclaimed, "This man can condense two kinds of gang spirit, one more powerful than the other. Where did he come from?" Just as they were fighting, a strong spiritual pressure suddenly fell from the sky not far away. In an instant, the sky darkened, and both Yan Mu's sword and Leng Shiqi's flaming lions dissipated into nothingness. Only a great master of the oneness of heaven and man realm could do this. A thin figure appeared between the two, and he said, "I'm Zhu Tao, the elder of the martial hall of the Shenduan Peak. Both of you are distinguished guests of the Shenduan Peak, but we don't allow anyone to mess around." The Shenduan Peak was famous for refining weapons, but it didn't mean that there were no spirit cultivators who specialized in fighting. Otherwise, if a strong enemy came, how could they resist the enemy? The martial hall gathered the most powerful disciples of the Shenduan Peak. There were not many of them, but each of them had outstanding strength. Yan Mu cupped his hands and said, "So it's Elder Zhu." Elder Zhu may not know, but this child blocked this old man for no reason and did not allow me to enter the courtyard. What is the reason for this? This old man had no choice but to take action. Zhu Tao looked at Leng Shiqi, and Leng Shiqi said bluntly, "Grandmaster Meng is forging a weapon for this one, and should not be disturbed." Facing Zhu Tao, he did not retreat, because Meng Jingyi was returning a favor. Naturally, he would think that Zhu Tao was upgrading the Demon Advent Battle Blade. Zhu Tao's lips moved slightly, but he did not make a sound. It seemed like he was directly transmitting his voice to Meng Jingyi. After a while, Zhu Tao looked at Leng Shiqi and said, "Elder Meng is indeed inconvenient, so I ask Elder Yan of the Thousand Illusion Sword sect to wait for a few more days." This. Yan Mu could not help but be startled. He was unwilling, but even the higher-ups of the Shenduan Peak had personally spoken, which meant that he no longer had a chance. "Elder Zhu, I am also in urgent need of a spirit tool. It was not easy for me to have the opportunity to come up the mountain." Before he could finish his sentence, Zhu Tao spoke up again, "My Divine Forge Mountain doesn't lack tool refiners the most. I can make the decision to get you a free tool refining Grand Master." Yan Mu's face lit up. It did not matter which artificer it was, as long as he could forge a 7th-grade spirit sword, he would have completed his mission. "Many thanks, Elder Zhu. Come with me." Zhu Tao turned and left. Yan Mu followed closely, but before he left, he gave Leng Shiqi a fierce glare. Leng Shiqi did not care. In any case, he had changed his body and appearance before coming to the Shenduan Peak. Even when he fought with Yan Mu, he deliberately used a spirit technique that he rarely used. As long as he did not fight with Yan Mu in the future, it would be impossible for him to be recognized. After sending away this trouble, Leng Shiqi continued to sit cross-legged. 6 days later, a shocking sharp intent suddenly appeared in the courtyard. Immediately after, Meng Jingyi's laughter came from inside. "Ha ha ha, as expected of the extreme star demonic jade, I actually forged a 7th-grade spirit sword." Chapter 604. Hearing Meng Jingyi's voice, Leng Shiqi was overjoyed. He knew that the Devil Arrival Battle Blade had successfully evolved. He walked into the courtyard and saw Meng Jingyi holding onto a long and narrow demonic blade with a face full of excitement. Seeing Leng Shiqi enter, Meng Jingyi hurriedly said, "Young Master Lu, quickly come and take a look. Is this blade to your liking?" Leng Shiqi took over the Devil Arrival Battle Blade. From its appearance, the current devil arrival battle blade was not as wide as before. It had become slender. The curvature of the blade had a sense of beauty. The color was still mainly black, but there was an eye-catching bloodstain in the middle of the blade. When Leng Shiqi injected a bit of spirit energy, the originally pitch-black blade seemed to have countless stars, but if you looked carefully, you would not be able to see them. It was as if the devil arrival battle blade was a black hole, swallowing all the starlight. The most important thing was that the moment Leng Shiqi held onto the devil arrival battle blade, there was an indistinct thought that touched his primordial spirit, making him feel that the devil arrival battle blade was like his own arm that he could control at will. Leng Shiqi knew that this was the spirit of the devil arrival battle blade. It was just that the spirit of a 7th level artifact was still in its embryonic form. At most, it could form a thought. But even so, Leng Shiqi was pleasantly surprised, because the spirituality he felt from the 10 directions floating snow spear and spirit fox lotus bow was far inferior to the devil arrival battle blade. This meant that the devil arrival battle blade's quality was far superior to ordinary 7th level artifacts. How is it? Are you satisfied? Meng Jingyi asked with a smile. Leng Shiqi immediately cupped his fists and said, "This blade is to my liking. It is much better than I expected. Master Meng truly lives up to his reputation." Ha! Meng Jingyi laughed, "This blade of yours has great potential. Adding the extreme star devil jade, it is natural for it to reach the 7th level. However, this blade was truly a ferocious weapon. Perhaps young Master Lu had also noticed that this blade was able to absorb the qi and blood of high-level spirit cultivator and continuously strengthen itself. In this way, this blade even has the potential to advance to the 8th step of the heavenly soldier, but if it absorbs too much blood and evil energy, I'm afraid it will affect your mind, and it will be very easy for you to fall into the demonic path." After listening to Meng Jingyi, Leng Shiqi wasn't worried. There was nothing wrong with a murderous weapon. After all, a weapon was just a weapon, a tool used to kill people. What's more, Leng Shiqi had a lot of demonic cultivation methods. He himself was a demonic cultivator, so why would he be afraid of falling into the demonic path? The spiritual energy in Leng Shiqi's body surged wildly. His long sword soared into the sky, and suddenly, an endless amount of demonic energy erupted. It soared into the sky, causing the demonic shadows to howl and dark clouds to cover the entire mountain. This time, even Leng Shiqi himself was shocked. Just now, he had only used his spiritual energy to activate the saber and had not used any spiritual techniques. However, he did not expect that it would cause such a powerful commotion. If he used this saber to unleash demonic ephemeral bloom, the power would be unimaginable. Meng Jingyi said proudly, "It's very powerful, right? However, you should put it away first, so as not to destroy me." "Oh right, this saber can be considered as newly forged. You should give it a name." Leng Shiqi thought about it and agreed. Now that the saber was a 7th-step treasure weapon, it was time to change its name. He pondered for a moment and said, "Then let's call it the Blood-Soaked Star Demon Saber." Not bad. Meng Jingyi nodded and said, "Also, this saber has just been forged and needs to be nurtured for a while. It's best if you don't put it in the ring bracelet and wear it by your side. As time passes, your connection with the blood-soaked star demon saber will become closer. I have also specially forged a scabbard for you. Take it." As Meng Jingyi spoke, he handed over a scabbard and a small piece of the extreme star demon jade. Leng Shiqi only took the scabbard. He put the blood-soaked star demon saber back into the scabbard and carried it on his back. He cupped his fists and said, "Elder Meng, you have helped me so much. Take the rest of the extreme star demon jade as a small token of my appreciation." This. Meng Jingyi revealed a hesitant expression. He had helped Leng Shiqi refine a tool to return the favor. It was reasonable to say that he did not need to receive any compensation. However, the extreme star demon jade was too precious and he liked it very much. This put him in a dilemma. As for Leng Shiqi, he had earned a favor for nothing. He could tell that Meng Jingyi was not a shrewd person. Now that he had obtained the top-grade 7th step blood-soaked star demon saber and his strength had increased greatly, he could not cheat Meng Jingyi too much. Therefore, this small piece of extreme star demon jade was really a token of his appreciation. So he said, "Elder Meng, please do not refuse. I still have important matters to attend to, so I will take my leave first." With that, he turned and left. Meng Jingyi clenched his fists and put away the extreme star demon jade in the end. Leng Shiqi rushed back to Dark Thunder Manor in Ningyang County. The people sent by Eunuch Gao had already arrived. As soon as he walked through the door, a strong middle-aged man walked towards him. He smiled warmly and said, "Brother Lu, you have finally returned. I am Zhang Sunshi. I have been ordered by Eunuch Gao to take over the position of Ningyang County's inspector. This time, Brother Lu has helped Eunuch Gao take back Ningyang County." Eunuch Gao is overjoyed. This is the first time I have seen Eunuch Gao so happy. "Brother Lu, you will be rewarded greatly when you return." Leng Shiqi had also heard of the name Zhang Sunshi. He was one of Eunuch Gao's trusted subordinates and was at the early stage of oneness of heaven and man. However, Zhang Sunshi had relied on his own ability to break through. He was not someone Li Zhangtao could compare with. Leng Shiqi also laughed and said, "Brother Zhang Sun is too polite. I was just lucky." Lucky? Zhang Sunshi would not believe this. No matter how lucky he was, how could he kill Li Zhangtao, a master of oneness of heaven and man? After Zhang Sunshi came to Ningyang County, he also learned about what Leng Shiqi had done. However, even if Leng Shiqi had the help of the Huangchuan tribe, it was impossible for him to kill Li Zhangtao. Not to mention Li Zhangtao's cultivation, he also had many masters of Gang's spirit realm and spiritual aperture realm around him. He also had various life-saving trump cards. Even if Zhang Sunshi wanted to kill Li Zhangtao, it was almost impossible. Thus, it could be seen that Leng Shiqi must have hidden a lot of secrets. However, Zhang Sunshi was not in the mood to ask about these things. Fortunately, Leng Shiqi had taken back the Dark Thunder Hall of Ningyang County. From now on, it was Zhang Sunshi's turn to be the local tyrant. Therefore, he was very enthusiastic about Leng Shiqi. The two walked into the meeting hall and exchanged greetings for a while. Leng Shiqi asked, "Brother Zhang Sun, did you bring a formation master this time?" Zhang Sunshi smiled and said, "Of course. Brother Lu must have taken a fancy to Li Zhangtao's treasury. It's a pity that he has been operating here for too long. The treasury's formations can be said to be stacked on top of each other. Activating one will affect the whole thing. It will take some time before it can be completely removed. But Brother Lu, you can rest assured. When the formation is broken, I will immediately send someone to send you 50% of the resources." Hearing this, Leng Shiqi was a little surprised. If he had all the resources in the treasury at the beginning, but in the end, he would have to give most of them to Eunuch Gao. It would be good if he could get 20% or 30%. Now he could get 50%, which was beyond his expectations. He also knew that Zhang Sunshi was taking this opportunity to make friends with him. He also cupped his hands and said, "Brother Zhang Sun, you are really generous." Then they continued to exchange pleasantries for a while. He, Feng Shamo, and Sulwan prepared to return. From Ningyang County to the imperial capital, they first needed to go to a nearby county and then teleport. However, Leng Shiqi did not go with Feng Shamo and Sulwan. Instead, he prepared to go alone. Chapter 605. In a dark room deep within the Dark Thunder Manor of the imperial capital, a figure was sitting there. Threads of chilling air permeated the entire room. This person was one of the 4 managers, Li Zhangtao. Suddenly, an ethereal voice sounded in the room, "My lord, everything has been arranged. The area within 100 miles of the teleportation formation is under our control. As long as Lu Xingji shows up, he will definitely die." Li Juqing didn't say anything. He nodded silently. The killing intent in his eyes was chilling. Leng Shiqi dared to take his Ningyang County, so he must pay the price of death. On the other side, Leng Shiqi knew that Li Jucheng was very narrow-minded. It was very likely that Li Jucheng would obstruct him or even kill him halfway, so he decided not to use the teleportation formation. Anyway, his fate skill could teleport him 2,000 miles. The Gu King's flying ability was also very fast. He could travel several hundred miles in a day in a straight line. So even if he didn't use the teleportation formation, he could still return to the imperial capital within a month. This way, no matter what Li Juqing did, he wouldn't be able to stop him from reaching the imperial capital. Hangzhou City was a famous transportation route in the Thunder Flame dynasty. It connected 4 or 5 counties around it. It was very prosperous. At the same time, a teleportation formation was secretly built in the city. Half a month later, Feng Shamo and Sulwan arrived at Hangzhou City. As soon as they entered the city, Feng Shamo frowned. He transmitted his voice to Sulwan, "We are being watched." Sulwan nodded secretly. As a blood-clothed assassin, she also sensed the danger. She was sure that there were at least several spirit astral realm masters watching them. Feng Shamo continued, "Humph, Leng Shiqi is indeed very cunning. He probably already predicted this situation, so he returned to the imperial capital alone." Sulwan still couldn't condense her voice into a line. She secretly made 2 gestures, meaning what should they do now? "Don't worry, their target is Leng Shiqi, not us. As long as Leng Shiqi doesn't show up, they won't act rashly. We can just go to the teleportation formation." 2 people were standing in a tall building in the center of Hangzhou City. At this moment, a gang spirit realm expert bowed and said, "Lords, Lu Xingji's 2 slaves have just entered the city. Should we, since they could be called lords by gang spirit realm experts, their cultivation could be imagined. They must be in the realm of oneness of heaven and men." In order to kill Leng Shiqi, Li Juecheng had sent 2 oneness of heaven realm and several gang spirit realm experts. This force was comparable to the top force of a first-class force. It could be seen that Li Juecheng really hated Leng Shiqi to the core and wanted to get rid of him. The elegant man with the flute said, "Lu Xingji didn't show up." In response to Lord Li's question, "No." "Humph, that brat is quite smart. Perhaps he has already sensed something. Pass down the order to expand the search area. We must find Lu Xingji." "Understood, but what about his 2 servants? Those 2 people might be the bait Lu Xingji released. We can't touch them, or we'll be alerting the enemy." "Got it." After that person left, another older man said, "Li Juning, if we really kill Lu Xingji, then the Li family will completely fall out with eunuch Gao." Leng Shiqi was the leader of the elite association, and he was also eunuch Gao's personal disciple. Eunuch Gao valued him greatly, and anyone with a discerning eye could tell that eunuch Gao intended to nurture Leng Shiqi as his successor. If they really assassinated Leng Shiqi this time, it was conceivable that eunuch Gao would be furious, and the Li family would also have to bear eunuch Gao's anger. Li Juning snorted, "Fourth uncle, if we fall out with eunuch Gao, so be it. That damn eunuch should have thought of this step when he was preparing to take away Ningyang County. Besides, do you think we're afraid of him? Alas." Fourth uncle sighed slightly, after all, eunuch Gao is His Majesty's man. As long as His Majesty is still alive, eunuch Gao will be his biggest backer. It won't do us any good to fight him to the death. Do you think His Majesty will allow the Li family to hold 2 positions of the 4 directors? Li Juning sneered, "Fourth uncle, you worry too much. To be honest, how many years can His Majesty live? I've inquired that His Majesty is still working day and night, and his health is getting worse and worse. Even if he has the most precious medicine in the world, he can only force himself to hang on. If nothing goes wrong, the Thunderstorm dynasty will be ruled by someone else in 1 or 2 years at most, so we don't have to be too afraid of that old eunuch. Killing Lu Xingji this time is a warning to him. His Majesty is very clear that the Dark Thunder Guard can't be in chaos at such a critical moment." What's more, we just killed an inner supervisor at the early stage of Gang Spirit Realm. His Majesty won't offend us just because of an insignificant inner supervisor. Fourth uncle opened his mouth slightly as if he wanted to say something, but he didn't say it. He could only think to himself, what His Majesty doesn't want to see is the Li family dominating the Dark Thunder Guard. His Majesty will definitely use this as an excuse to weaken the power of the Li family. Alas, our Li family has been in the limelight for too long, so these juniors are too arrogant. At this time, Feng Xiaobo and Sulwan finally stepped into the interdomain transmission formation and directly teleported to the imperial capital. They had just arrived at the Xingji Pavilion in the headquarters of the Dark Thunder Guard when someone handed the news to Li Juecheng. Seeing this news, Li Juecheng's face darkened, and he said coldly, "If I see news of Lu Xingji's return, I'll kill him." At this time, eunuch Gao was still in the imperial palace. Recently, Lei Qingjun was planning something, so eunuch Gao was always by his side, so he didn't know that Li Juecheng was preparing to assassinate Ling Shiqi. It wasn't until he learned that Feng Xiaobo and Sulwan came back, but Ling Shiqi didn't, that he knew something was wrong. He hurriedly sent a large number of masters to the vicinity of Hangzhou City, hoping to receive Ling Shiqi. However, to his disappointment, there was no trace of Ling Shiqi at all. He originally thought that he was a step too late, but he found that Li Juecheng also didn't find Ling Shiqi. Eunuch Gao smiled inwardly. He knew that Ling Shiqi must have guessed all of this, and now he was hiding somewhere, returning to the imperial capital in another way. Thus, eunuch Gao was relieved, but this matter couldn't be let go so easily. Time passed day by day, and after more than 10 days, Li Juecheng became more and more irritable. After more than 10 days, he still couldn't find Ling Shiqi. This made him very angry. "Sir." At this time, someone ran in with a hesitant expression. Li Juecheng was already in a bad mood, so he directly shouted, "If you have something to say, say it." That Lu Xingji, he's already returned." Bang! As soon as that person finished speaking, Li Juecheng fiercely waved his hand, and a terrifying force smashed that person into a pile of minced meat. Chapter 606. At this moment, Ling Shiqi was sitting in the main hall of Xingji Pavilion. His face was filled with exhaustion, but there was a cold smile on his face. Beside him, Feng Xiaomo, Sulwan, Elder Huang, He Fei Chen, and the other inspectors were all present. Others might not know that Ling Shiqi had been assassinated, but they knew. So for the past half a month, they had been very worried. Although Ling Shiqi hadn't been promoted for long, he was able to distribute his power and resources to his subordinates. This treatment wasn't just good. Especially those who were originally part of the 29 guards. Ever since they followed Ling Shiqi, not only were they able to hold their heads high, they were also able to receive endless resources. So of course they didn't want to lose this boss. Ling Shiqi finished listening to He Fei Chen's report. In the past half a month, eunuch Gao and Li Juecheng had been fighting openly and covertly. One wanted to kill him, the other wanted to save him. They had already clashed several times in the dark. But after fighting for so long, they couldn't even find Ling Shiqi's shadow. They also didn't expect Ling Shiqi to silently return to the capital. He Fei Chen's head was full of doubts. He asked, "Sir, how did you come back during this time?" "We mobilized all the information we could, but we still couldn't find you." And that Li Juecheng, he definitely has his own methods of gathering information. This is the same as 2 senior managers going all out to find you, but they still couldn't find you. "Sir, could it be that you flew back?" Ling Shiqi laughed inwardly. He Fei Chen really did say it. He really did fly back. Ningyang County was tens of thousands of li away from the capital. He had used the Fate skill to teleport 2,000 li away. During the skill's cooldown, he had the Gu King transform into wings and fly 10,000 zhang in the air. With his incomparably deep spiritual energy, he could fly for several days without stopping. When his spiritual energy ran out, he would hide and recover. So his feet didn't touch the ground at all. It would be strange if others could find him. Leng Shiqi was about to speak to He Fei Chen, but suddenly, a figure appeared in the hall. Everyone was startled, but they immediately lowered their heads respectfully. Because the person who came was Eunuch Gao. Eunuch Gao had also received news that Leng Shiqi had returned. He immediately rushed over as fast as he could. He looked at Leng Shiqi with a complicated expression. He waved his hand, and the others consciously bowed and left. Disciple greets master. Leng Shiqi also bowed, but Eunuch Gao still didn't say anything. His eyes stared straight at Leng Shiqi, and finally landed on the blood-stained demonic blade on Leng Shiqi's back. There didn't seem to be anything strange with him. With him didn't seem to be in any way. Ha 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 ha. Suddenly, Eunuch Gao threw his head back and laughed loudly. His laughter was filled with delight. This was the first time Leng Shiqi had seen Eunuch Gao laugh so heartily. Eunuch Gao laughed for a few breaths before he stopped. He patted Leng Shiqi's shoulder and praised, "Good, good, good. You did very well. Not only did you help me take back Dark Thunder Manor in Ningyang County, but you also killed Li Zhangtao. You even avoided Li Ju Cheng's assassination and successfully returned. I really didn't misjudge you. I can imagine Li Ju Cheng's expression when he knows you're back. Hee hee, I haven't been so happy in a long time." Leng Shiqi said modestly, "This is what disciples should do. Master, please take a seat." Eunuch Gao sat in the main seat in the hall. He said with a smile, "Xingji, I won't be long-winded. Just tell me what reward you want." "Oh." Leng Shiqi was slightly surprised. Eunuch Gao even said this. It seemed he was really happy. He thought for a moment, then said, "I'll leave it to master." "You're still so cautious." Eunuch Gao nodded with satisfaction and said, "Well, you don't lack resources. I'll give you 100,000 merit points. You can get whatever resources you need." Eunuch Gao gave him 100,000 merit points. This was a huge amount that an ordinary War Thunder Guard might not be able to save up in their lifetime. Leng Shiqi couldn't help but be moved. "Also, do you remember that you all have the qualifications to enter the Heavenly Tomb after the elite meeting?" Eunuch Gao continued, "The Heavenly Tomb can't be opened at will. Every time it opens, a part of the spiritual power will leak out. This kind of spiritual power must be sealed for many years to replenish. Therefore, generally speaking, the Heavenly Tomb will only open once every 3 years. According to this time, you will only be able to enter after a year. I can let the 5 of you enter the Heavenly Tomb in advance. And I can let you stay in there for 1 more day." Leng Shiqi also specially went to the Heavenly Tomb to learn about it. Since the establishment of the Thunderfire dynasty, it was the place where the Sky Origin Realm experts died. Now, there were probably hundreds of Sky Origin Realm experts who died in there. It was filled with the insights and understanding of the spirit cultivation Tao of those experts. Even if he could comprehend a little bit, it would be enough to benefit him for a lifetime. Unfortunately, since they came to the imperial capital, the matter of entering the Heavenly Tomb seemed to have disappeared. Now that they could enter in advance and have 1 more day, even if Leng Shiqi had a strong will, he couldn't help but be pleasantly surprised. Eunuch Gao smiled and said, "In addition to the 100,000 merit points and entering the Heavenly Tomb in advance, I also promised you that as long as you take back the Dark Thunder Manor in Ningyang County, I will give you the position of Deputy General Manager." But now that he knew, he would never let go of this opportunity. What if I say no? Eunuch Gao didn't lose in momentum at all. Li Juqing suddenly smiled, "I know you can open the Heavenly Tomb in advance because His Majesty allows it. Anyway, the Heavenly Tomb is going to open. What's wrong with 2 more people going in? Or is Steward Gao already able to cover the sky with one hand in the dark thunder guards? You know, there are still several people who are qualified to enter the heavenly tomb. If they know that Steward Gao opened the heavenly tomb in advance and caused them to wait for 3 more years, do you think they will resent Steward Gao? He was threatening Eunuch Gao. Those who were qualified to enter the heavenly tomb were definitely not simple. If those people made trouble together, it would be really a big trouble. That's right. It doesn't matter if there are 2 more people or 2 less people. Eunuch Gao said seriously, but he suddenly changed the topic. But I won't let them go in. What are you going to do? Li Ju Cheng's face darkened and he no longer pretended. He said bluntly, Eunuch Gao, let's talk about the matter as it is. As long as you take the 2 juniors of the Li family in, I can help you cover it up. Otherwise, even if His Majesty has agreed, it is inevitable that some people will be dissatisfied with you. Those people may not be a direct threat to Steward Gao, but we are all officials in the court and will meet frequently. Sooner or later, we will meet. When that time comes, I'm afraid Steward Gao won't be as strong as he is now. Eunuch Gao's eyes turned cold. He was about to retaliate when Leng Shiqi secretly sent a voice transmission to Eunuch Gao, Master, why don't you let them in? Huh? Eunuch Gao was puzzled. He knew that Leng Shiqi was a vengeful person. Li Ju Cheng had just sent people to kill him, but now he was willing to let Li Ju Cheng's people into the heavenly tomb. This didn't seem like Leng Shiqi's style. Eunuch Gao also sent a voice transmission, do you have some tricks up your sleeve again? Master, disciple has heard that the heavenly tomb is not very stable at times. Who knows if an accident might happen and someone might accidentally die inside. Leng Shiqi's voice was filled with dense killing intent. Hearing this, Eunuch Gao secretly smiled. He knew what to do. Everything between heaven and earth, the sun, the moon, the stars, and the flow of time were all supported by the power of law. It could be said that the law of heaven and earth was the original power of this world. These were all what Leng Shiqi had heard in his previous life. In today's world, they may not be exactly the same, but the difference would not be too big. He also thought that the spirit cultivators in the spirit gang realm used their own spiritual power as the foundation and stole a trace of heaven and earth's spiritual power with the help of external objects to condense spirit gang. And the spirit cultivators in the unity of heaven and men realm could be more compatible with heaven and earth and could directly mobilize a part of heaven and earth's spiritual power. As for the strong cultivators in the Tianyuan realm, as the name implied, they could already control heaven and earth's spiritual power. There was only one word difference between heaven and earth's spiritual power, but there was a huge difference between heaven and earth. Heaven and earth's spiritual power was the spiritual chi that overflowed between heaven and earth, which was the energy that spirit cultivators needed to absorb and transform into cultivation. The concentration of spiritual power in each place was different. And heaven and earth's spiritual power was the original power of this world. A person's body could be said to be a treasure that could continuously unearth one's potential. However, the problem was that a person's potential was not unlimited. No matter how much spiritual energy one could store, it was still one's own strength. How could it compete with the power of heaven and earth? If you could grasp even a trace of heaven and earth's spiritual power, it was enough to break mountains and rivers, and crack the earth. Leng Shiqi had seen 2 strong cultivators in the Tianyuan realm fight. One was the pavilion master of the blood clothing pavilion, Hateful Blade. When they were preparing to fight with the disciples of the Lyoha spiritual region in the Bloodkill Hall, Hateful Blade could cross space with just a light stroke. There was also Huang Baixing from the Mountain Sea sect in the Donglin County. When the entrance to the illusory spirit secret realm appeared, he could seal the entrance with a raise of his hand. And in the demonic Miasma mountain range, the Tianyuan realm cultivators of the Imperial Beast Camp and the Blood Beast sect had also fought. Leng Shiqi did not see it, but just from the destructive power, he knew how terrifying the Tianyuan realm was. However, Lin Shiqi heard some clues from the conversation of the phantoms just now, and that was that the Tianyuan realm cultivators did not seem to be able to control the laws of heaven and earth. Then was there a higher realm above the Tianyuan realm? However, before he had time to think about it, the scene in front of him changed again. In the blink of an eye, he had arrived in a strange world.